did everything I was supposed to do except eat. So here we go. Um, So what I'm actually doing right now is we're gonna do a trial watch for the ongoing trial of the man charged with the killing of the universe at the University of Mississippi, aka Ole Miss, killing of Jay Lee. All right. I'm just going to read the article to kind of give some background on the case, and then I will just start the stream. So, the man is set to go to trial this week in the 200 in the 2022 killing of a University of Mississippi student who was well known in the local LGBTQ plus community. Sheldon Timothy Harrington Jr. of Grenada, Mississippi, is charged with capital murder in the death of Jimmy J. Lee, 20, who was last seen on July 8th of 2022 at an apartment complex in Oxford. Lee's body has not been found. In October, a judge declared him dead after Lee's parents requested that declaration. Harrington maintains his innocence. So the jury selection began a little while back, and the trial is being held in Lafayette County Courthouse in Oxford, Mississippi. Shout out to Oxford because I have family from Oxford, Miss. Both Harrington and Lee had graduated from Ole Miss. Lee was pursuing a master's degree. Lee was known for his creative expressions through fashion and makeup and often performed in drag shows in Oxford, according to a support group called Justice for Jay Lee. Police said cell phone history showed conversations between Harrington and Lee the morning that Lee disappeared. They said Harrington also searched online about international travel and how long it takes to strangle someone. Minutes after Lee said he was on his way to Harrington's apartment. Surveillance video recorded Harrington running from where Lee's car was found, and he was later seen picking up a shovel and a wheelbarrow at his parents' house, authorities said. Lee, who was from Jackson, unsuccessfully ran for homecoming king in 2021 on the platform of self-love and knowing your truth. Ole Miss embraces so many different cultures and backgrounds. Harrington, who graduated from the university, was arrested 2 weeks after Lee vanished, then released 5 months later on a $250,000 bond after agreeing to surrendering his passport and wearing an ankle monitor. A grand jury in March of 2023 indicted him on a capital murder charge. Prosecutors have announced they do not intend to pursue the death penalty, meaning he could get a life sentence if convicted. Mississippi law defines capital murder as killing committed along with another felony. In this case, kidnapping. All right. So the trial actually started on yesterday, but they're on day 2 right now, but we're gonna just jump right into day 1. And we're gonna get started. Now I'm gonna play it at a elevated speed because we are behind. And I want to get us caught up. So here we go. You will see how the police trace Jay to that apartment. You will see that when Jay gets there, he lets him know he's there. But right before Jay hits his apartment, when he's headed over, right before he gets there, mere minutes, Timothy searches how long would it take to strangle someone. The evidence will further show that Jay never left that apartment on his own. Ladies and gentlemen, the detectives will tell you how they discovered Timothy was a suspect. They will tell you what he did the day after, the same day after. We're going to walk through all the evidence. And they're going to tell you how we know that Jay's no longer alive. In preparing to speak to you all today, I was looking at some quotes and reading some things like I do, and I
saw something that said, the rest is silence. Because I was thinking, what makes up a life? Jay's death is in silence. No more financial transactions. No more social media posts. No more contacts with his mother, not checking up on her, not on her birthday. No more contacts with his dogs. No more anything. The plans for grad school, to move, the dreams. All proof that Jay's no longer with us. In that proof, that is how we know that we must seek justice. And at the conclusion of the evidence, I'm going to come back before you. And I'm going to ask that you provide the only verdict that justice will demand. And it's going to be guilty. Thank you.
Everybody good on jury? Officer, I want to see if anybody out there, this card show would like to come in. I want to ask you, well, there's anybody coming and going, only come, then we have breaks. But if anybody out there wants to come in now or leave now, they can do so. And you wish to make a open statement this time, Mr. Hoban? Go ahead and get warmed up anyway. Be tuning up, okay? Just see if there's anybody there.
Check this out. I'm going to show you how I afforded this car. Okay, you ready? All right.
All right. Once you out, you out. Once you in.
I'm saying, John.
Give me 1 minute. Go ahead. You done?
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I want to tell each one of y'all, some of y'all sit on this jury today. Just one more answer to a question from the judge, counsel, still being passed for things. One question will be easy for each one of y'all. Well, there's some of them that answer the question in different ways, and you wouldn't be in Mississippi. And I appreciate the fact that each one of y'all found your way out of the room. For the citizens of the state of Mississippi and people all. We'll talk to you a little bit about the counsel opposite talked about as far as what they anticipate showing you in their case. First of all, I recall Streetmore using an old, what we call common law term of embezzlement. That is, if somebody come over, or a child, only in case of children at a park or something, get a child, we don't have to take them anywhere else, we take with them at that point in time, technically, heist is kidnapping. Now, I noticed that they didn't mention anything about the kidnapping aspect. They've got to prove that, Your Honor. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, they have got to prove that. That means that during the course of what they claim they're going to put into evidence, certain messages or conversations between Jay Lee and my client, they got to establish that happened. Because if that didn't happen, the rest of their case goes like a house of cards. You're going to, assuming the court allows any of this messaging and social media evidence in, or you're going to hear that approximately 2:03, 2:04 in the morning, Jay Lee reached out, assuming it comes in, evidence, to this Harry. And I implore you to find anything in what they provided to us that supports the proposition that there was any threat or anything in those messages that my client threatened him in any way. And I don't doubt, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to hear evidence about how David's mother loved him. I'm not saying he was a bad person, certainly not. The court's going to instruct you at the conclusion of this case that you cannot allow sympathy or a mother come into play here. You consider what she says as evidence. But y'all have got to decide in this case on facts. And what you're gonna hear is nothing about a threat in shape, form, or fashion from my client. And you're not gonna hear that he searched anything about strangling anybody, that he gathered any information for that purpose. Now, I'm going to say this, tell by the board hour yesterday, these are touchy subjects for everybody to get involved in. It doesn't matter whether or not it's heterosexual conduct or otherwise. Talking about creases of the night, late hours, about two consenting adults, what they're doing late at night, it's just touchy. Hard to board hour, hard to talk to George about it, people that have never met before. So I say that because nothing against the young man, but there's going to be a lot of information I think you're going to hear about Mr. Lee's conduct prior to this night and the manner in which he conducted himself. I'm not passing judgment on the young man. Those are facts. You cannot abandon your sense of responsibility. That's what they're going to ask you to do. Worry about the facts. Worry about compassion. Worry about sympathy. Things that occurred in his life, it was not unusual for him to be going out in the middle of the night. I think evidence is going to show. I didn't make these things up. It's going to be stuff that the state provided to us. Okay? The way it is. He did go over, according to what I anticipate the state is going to present to you. And again, assuming that the judge allowed that evidence to come in, you go to my client's apartment. It's going to be their theory. But it was completely unannounced. No evidence otherwise. Not that they provided unless they're going to give it to us during the course of this trial. It'll be the first time I've heard it. You're not going to hear anything during the course of their conversations about any argument. In fact, again, I keep saying it, assuming the state gets it proof in, Jay Lee makes a comment, message that he sends. If this goes bad, it's not going to be good for you. I'm going to read that. And again, assuming it gets that far. Now, let's talk a little bit about what the state's required to prove and what I don't think their evidence is going to show. Proof of the death. First of all. Proof of any death whatsoever. 0. DNA evidence, blood, urine, trace evidence whatsoever. What counsel opposite told you that we don't have a body, not only do they not have a body, ladies and gentlemen, they don't have one scintilla. That means anything in legal terms. First of all, that a death occurred in Lafayette County if it did occur. Second of all, any trace evidence in his apartment, their own proof that they say they're going to put on, and went over there twice, apparently engaged in sexual activity on 2 separate occasions, according to their proof. 0. I'm not saying speculatively, it is their proof that a crime was ever committed inside our client's apartment, or in the parking lot, or in his car, or in Jamie's car. Nowhere. I remember yesterday when counsel, Mr. Creekmore, I've known a long time, he said, ladies and gentlemen, we think we're going to have a gamut of opportunities to find Mr. Harrington guilty of murder, manslaughter, what they're expecting you to do is allow them to throw something up against the wall, hope it sticks, and you decide, hey, that's the proof you're going to hear. Objection. Pardon. Ladies and gentlemen, you are not going to hear anything that supports a finding of a killing or a death. Period. You're going to hear some conversations between two young guys. Like I told y'all yesterday, I got 7 kids. These kids nowadays send stuff back and forth to each other. That's what happened here. You're not going to find anything supporting whatsoever that inside his apartment anything untoward occurred. And finally, and probably most importantly, I want you to listen to a lot of the things during the course of this investigation that didn't occur. I'm going to say it now, and I'm going to repeat myself. 22,000 documents we've had provided and discovered, 7 law enforcement agencies, 71 search warrants. 71. And if they're going to be honest with you during the course of this presentation, when Miss Lee came up here and came to the University Police Department, they covered their whole department. Everybody got involved in this investigation. Our police department then got involved in it. They inquired with the FBI, Grenada County Sheriff's Department. 71 search warrants. And they haven't recovered not one bit of direct evidence to support this case. And I challenge the prosecution and the Oxford Police Department, Ryan Baker, nice fella, Shane Portman, nice fella, challenge them to say we have a one bit of direct evidence. You can't go on conjecture, you can't go on speculation, you can't go on suspicion. Guesswork, wonderment, all those things you can't do. It's got to be factual. And I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, this conversation or this search that she made reference to about strangling, we don't have any idea what the context of that may have been about. And they're not going to be establishing the context. That could have been something that my client was talking about, some sexual activity with a lady or even Jay Lee. Who knows? Somebody or not other. But you're not going to find that he ever acted any evidence in that apartment. He acted in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, that at the conclusion of this case, you're going to have just as many questions then as you do right now about whether or not they've proven a debt. You will, my opinion, and I submit to you, you will not be satisfied with a status. Only verdict you can return. It's going to be not guilty, not the manslaughter, not the second degree, not the murder, certainly not the capital murder, or any of them. And that's what I'm going to ask you to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen, jury. I want to call first. I got one little short matter I got to take care of. Y'all will return here. Don't get caught. We're not going to be there long anyway. Somebody find what rat's in the attic and get rid of it anyway. I don't know what's going on up there, but get that stopped anyway.
This man said rats in the attic, y'all. They are some real down south people, okay? Apparently, it's some clicking going on above his head. He said, "Get that together." All right. So for anybody tuning in, we are watching the case against Sheldon. He's accused of, I think his name is Sheldon Harrington. He's accused of unaliving Jay Lee, who is a part of the LGBTQ plus community. This
All right,
is
I'm
supposed.
gonna have to, here on the first row, the court has entered an order that there can't be any T-shirts or any displays of support for one side or the other. You're welcome to stay, but I know people have strong emotions and strong feelings, but we can't be displaying any signs or T-shirts or anything like that for either side. And so if you would, you're welcome to stay, but we'll have to cover any of that up, okay? Take any buttons or pins or T-shirts or cover them or change clothes or something anyway. All right, that officer at the back, if y'all would see anybody trying to come in with a T-shirt or sticker or anything, let them come in once they've turned it inside out or covered it up or something, okay? Court being recessed just about 2 minutes.
Yeah. And so basically what the prosecution is alleging is that Jay went over to Sheldon's, and at some point in time, right before Jay arrived, Sheldon ended up doing some type of search on his phone about asking how long does it take to strangle somebody. That was the last time anybody was seen. I'm sorry, that was the last time Jay was seen. Was at Sheldon's house or apartment complex. And then Sheldon is seen running from Jay's car, and then he's also seen going to get a wheelbarrow and a shovel from his mother's house. So this is his trial. This occurred a year ago. And again, this is down in Mississippi. So we're on day one. And that was just opening arguments. The audio is a little, but I tried to speed it up, but baby, I couldn't understand what he was saying, so I had to slow it down. But we're gonna get back into it. Hope that helps, Joy.
We got them all back.
Mr. Creek, we'll go back, we'll get kicked off.
Objections, I had to remind of the list.
We'll deal with those objections. You're not waiving anything. Well, Ms. Lee, face the court reporter there and be sworn in, please.
You also have to do that side. Do it when we get to that point. You can sit up here and do it when we get to that point.
We're not used to having good microphones around here. We do today. Keep that in mind. The mics are hot as a firecracker anyway when you're trying to have any private conversations. All right. You've been sworn. All right, you may proceed.
Ms. Lee, please introduce yourself to the jury.
My name is Stephanie Lee. I'm the mother of Jimmy Dale Lee III.
And you said you're the mother of Jimmy Dale J. Lee III?
Yes, ma'am.
So what did Jay Lee like? What did he like to be called?
Jay.
Okay. Is that what y'all refer to him as?
Yes, ma'am. He's always wanted to be called Jay since early on.
You could tell me where are you from, Ms. Lee?
I'm Jackson, Mississippi.
And is that where Jay was raised?
Yes, born and raised in Jackson, Mississippi.
So did he go to high school in Jackson?
Yes, ma'am. Started off at Oak Forest Elementary, then went later on, went to Southwell Middle School and Forest Hill. We graduated from Forest Hill.
All right, can everybody hear on him? And when did Jay graduate?
2019.
And can you tell us a little bit about his schoolwork? Was he a good student?
Jay was very outgoing. In ninth grade, Jay started doing IB classes, international ed classes, so that he can advance his career. Then later proceeded to do IB classes. Once he did IB classes, went on to Jim Hill to do another assessment program to advance careers. Jay graduated at the top of his class, top 10 of his class. His dream was to come here to Ole Miss to complete his education in social work and a minor in business.
So did he eventually come to? Ole Miss?
Eventually, Ole Miss is my choice. And I said, okay, that's where you want to go. And we got everything set up and got moved down here. And he said, Mom, I'm going to go down there and I'm going to get my bachelor's degree within 3 years. I said, okay, you're going to do that? He said, yeah, I got everything set up where he graduated early in high school. He said, so I'll be able to complete college within 3 years instead of 4 years. And Jay did come down here and complete that, make that happen.
So when did he come to Oxford to go to Ole Miss? What year?
Coming this summer right after graduation.
So would that be about 2019?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did he graduate from Ole Miss?
I think it was 2020.
Was it the same year he went missing?
Yes, ma'am.
So would 2022 be around the right time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ms. Lee, if you could tell me, what did Jay major in at Ole Miss?
Social work with a minor in business.
And did you attend his graduation?
Yes, me, my mother, sister, his dad, my other daughter and her family.
Would that have been around May 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
You said, if you tell me, how many siblings, other children do you have?
4. It's a total 4, 3 others.
And where is Jay in that line?
Jay's my baby.
And how much older are his siblings?
7 to 8 years older.
So when Jay went to college, who paid for his college?
His dad did the majority of the payments.
So did how was Jay financially supported while in school?
His father.
And is that your husband?
Yes, ma'am. Both of us contribute, me and his father.
So after Jay graduated with social work degree, do you know what his plans were?
He's getting his bachelor's, so his plans was go back the next fall to do his complete his master's.
And do you remember what apartment Jay lived in? Or,
Campus Walk. Campus Walk.
And is that on Ole Miss campus?
Yes, ma'am.
So that was like student housing?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So let's go a little bit more. What about Jay's car? Like, how did Jay get around?
When he first came down to Ole Miss, one of the cars that we already had purchased early on in the years, he drove that here so that he could have transportation. But later on, he came to me and his father and said, Mom, I see this car that I want. Can your dad get it for me? So we proceeded to get it for him.
And what kind of car was that?
A Ford Fusion, 2015 Ford Fusion.
And so you all bought that for Jay?
Yes, we did.
Do you remember how Jay felt about his car?
Loved his car, loved it. He proceeded to put electronics in it and order things off the internet and put things in it and to make it his own.
And do you know if he borrowed it out or let people drive it?
No, ma'am, never would do it.
Would it be fair to say he was protective of that car?
Very much so.
You said earlier that you came here. Did Jay have any pets or animals?
Yes, ma'am. Jay had Lexus. Lexus is a family dog that we had early on.
So about when did the family get Lexus?
It's been we had the dog about 13 years, about 10 or 13 years.
And how old was Jay when he went missing?
20.
So we had about 15 years. He had it for a while.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And where was this dog? Was it with you all?
Came down here with Jay in Oxford.
So he lived with his dog on student housing?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about how that transpired.
So the first year Jay came down, Jay was like, Mom, I gotta have Lexus. I want Lexus here with me. And I said, well, you can't have the dog at school, I don't think. He said, Mom, I think it can happen. I think it can be made happen. So Jay got with the counselors and everything. And then next fall that he's completed school and campus walk, Jay was allowed to bring Lexus here with them.
And kind of describe, like, what kind of dog is Lexus?
A Pomeranian.
So in July 2022, where did Lexus live?
With Jay.
I want you to tell me a little bit about Jay's financial situation. Did Jay have any credit cards?
Yes, only early on in life, when Jay was in junior high, his dad proceeded to get him his credit card to start establish credit for him. So yes, Jay had a credit card in 7th or 8th grade.
And what was his credit like?
I'm at 800.
To object to anything up to this point in time, I feel it's irrelevant. That's the final question at this time.
I'm going to overrule your objection. I think that they're laying the foundation for the case, and I'm going to overrule your objection.
You said he had credit cards. So who paid the credit cards?
His father.
So who funded Jay's life, would it be fair to say?
Myself and his father.
I want to go back to July 8th, 2022. Is that day significant to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me why that day is significant to you.
That's my birthday, July 8th.
Okay. And what about July 8th, 2022? Did anything else happen that day?
Yes, July 8th, 2022 it's a hard day to not forget. That was my birthday, and Jay would call me every year on my birthday to sing happy birthday, no matter what time it was. So around that time, about 2 o'clock in the morning, I was asleep, and he texted me and said it was your birthday.
So before we go any further, I want to backtrack a little bit. You said every year he would call you to sing happy birthday, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about your relationship with Jay. How often did you all talk?
Every day.
And when you say every day, was that because you called him every day? He called you? What happened?
That was every day. We both was been daily calling each other. He would communicate with me about school, what was going on. We would talk about work and different things of life expect. And it was not a day that would go by that we would not communicate with each other.
And when you say communicate, do you mean text or phone, all just phone calls?
Phone calls.
And more than once a day or just once a day?
I would talk to Jay 2 or 3 times a day when I get up in the morning, and in the evening on my way home from work, before I go to bed at night. You know, it was a touch base at all times.
And he would reach out to you too?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so let's go back to July 8th. You said it was your birthday, and I believe you said that you got a text at 2 a.m. You didn't get it. When did you receive Jay's text message?
So I woke up about maybe in the 4 o'clock hour, and I went into his room. I don't know what led me there, but I went into his room, and I looked at my phone, and I seen that he had texted me at 2. But Jay holds a job also here, and so I said, okay, I won't call him back now because maybe he's sleeping. I'll get back in communication with him a little while. By the time I think he'd get up for work. So
you said you Jay holds a job. Well, before that, you went to his room. Where were you located?
I was in Jackson, Mississippi.
Okay, and that's where you currently still live?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You said he had a job. What job did he have?
Mental health program here. It was his internship. He was doing his interns within a mental health program here.
Was that for like class credit?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So jump back in. You said that you went to his room. You thought, I'm not going to bother him. Did you ever try to reach out to him again?
I kind of nodded off a little bit, trying to give him enough time to get up. But in the morning at 7 o'clock, because me and his dad was getting ready to travel because it was my birthday. So I kind of like responded to a text where he's a happy face to let him know that I received his text because, you know, not sure if he was getting up for work or whatever he was going to be doing. So we were in the process of getting ready to go out of town to Biloxi, Mississippi, and I gave him a text back with a smiley face.
What were you expecting?
I was expecting his call at that point because of him knowing that I'm up. Okay, the first thing he's gonna do, hey mama, it's your birthday, happy birthday, I love you. You know.
And that was every year he called you and saying that?
Yes.
And did you get a response?
No, I did not.
And about what time was this?
It was in the 7 o'clock hour. So when I did not receive that response.
And you're talking about AM or PM?
AM.
Okay. So go on. When you didn't receive that response, what did you do?
I kind of brushed it off a little bit, saying maybe he was sleeping because he had been up earlier on texting me. So I said, okay, maybe he's sleeping. You know, he'll get in touch with me as soon as possible. So me and his dad proceeded to go out of town.
So what were your plans for that day?
My plans was my husband was taking me out for my birthday. We was going to drive down to Biloxi for my birthday.
But how long does it take to get from Jackson to Biloxi?
Roughly about 3 hours.
So you tried to call him, he didn't answer.
Yes, in the process of going down there, I hadn't received a call, and that wasn't normal. And I was driving down there, I was looking at his location, I said, it's not like Jay not to call me, you know, all days he's gonna call me, but, you know, like when we travel and he would call, hey, I see you all are here, I see you all are there, where are you going, you know?
And how would he see you at places? You saying, I see you all are here, I see you all are there. What are you referring to?
We shared these locations. He had my location, I had his location.
And this was using your phone?
The iPhones, yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
And you said you checked his location. When you checked his location, what did you see?
When I first seen his location, when I first checked his location, he was just showing he was at Campus Walk, his apartment. And that was early on. And so, like I said, we proceeded to go on out of town. And once we proceeded to go on out of town, doing a trip, I just told my husband, I said, I hadn't heard from Jay. This is not normal. I said, Jay would have called, which my husband knows already too. I said, that's strange. He ain't called. I said, yes, he had to call. I hadn't heard from the early on text. And I was just worried the whole trip down there. So we proceeded to go on down there. And we got to our destination. And I just continued to try and call Jay periodically throughout the day and didn't get a response.
And so after trying to call him and not getting a response, what did you do?
It was later on in the evening, so.
This is still July 8th?
Yes, ma'am, it's
Okay.
still July 8th. It was later on in the evening, and I told my husband, I said, I'm just puzzled. I'm not content with not being able to communicate with him. And he said, baby, what we'll do, we'll lay here tonight and we'll go to Oxford first thing in the morning. And that's what we did.
And did you reach out to anyone in Oxford?
I did. In the process of that, I made a number of calls to Oxford PD, doing wellness check. I called periodically the day of July 8th, probably 9, 10 times, maybe more. I'm not sure, but I kept calling and telling them that I needed them to go and do a wellness check with my baby. And
So in July 8th, you did report that you were worried about him to authorities in Oxford.
yes, ma'am.
So I believe you said that night, did y'all stay in Biloxi? Kind of go back through that.
Yes, ma'am, we did. We stayed there. And in the process of staying there, this is when his location went off, like someone discarded his phone, where everybody had a star up there where I couldn't see his location. So I proceeded to call. I knew that he communicated with Jose. So I reached out to my oldest child and I said, can you communicate with Jose? Can you find his number on Instagram or somewhere so maybe he can go over to the apartment to see if he see Jay car or something, what's going on, because I can't contact Jay. So in the process of this, Taylor communicated with Jose, and Jose went over to the apartment and he communicated back with us and said, well, Mama Lee, I hear the dog in the house, I hear Lexus there. And Jay wouldn't leave Lexus too often because Jay take Lexus everywhere he go. And I hear the dog in the apartment, but I don't see Jay's car. And also Jay shared location with Jose here too. And also Jay's shared locations too.
Hearsay as to what, right,
The witness
Wait.
don't heard about the car.
all right, what's the state's?
Your Honor, we are not offering this. One, the state didn't elicit any of that, but two, we're not offering it for the truth of the matter, Your Honor. We're offering it to show why she was calling up to Oxford for a welfare check, how she's getting into they're gonna go up to Oxford. It's not being offered to say that he was or wasn't there, but for the effect on Miss Lee.
Limited, very limited, okay?
Is there a way we could get her some water or something?
Okay, take care of your witness.
Get water too, please.
Thank you.
I'm gonna make an objection clear that wasn't objecting to the fact that she reacted by having a conversation, just whether or not she was saying, I understand the court's ruling. We're limited.
We're gonna move on from that line of question anyway.
So, Ms. Lee, without going into what anyone said, did you, this point we were, you checked with Jose. Who is Jose?
Jose is Jay's friend.
And After hearing from Jose and not hearing back from Jay, what did you and your husband do next while in Biloxi?
We packed up our bags and we packed our bags and we drove across from Biloxi, Mississippi, all the way here to Oxford, Mississippi.
And when you got here, did you go to Jay's apartment?
We went directly to Jay's apartment. Yes, ma'am.
Was he there?
No, ma'am, he was not.
And did you contact law enforcement when you got there?
Yes, we did.
Had Jay been found by that point?
No, ma'am.
Since that time, have you heard from Jay, your son, again?
No, ma'am.
What was the last thing you ever heard from your son?
It's your birthday with that text that he sent.
And that was at 2 a.m. on July 8th?
Yes, ma'am.
And since that time, and you talked about, the credit cards, have there been any charges that you've had to pay for Jay's credit cards?
No, ma'am.
Even to, this is 2022, it's now December 3rd, 2024. Since that time, have there been any charges on those cards?
No, ma'am.
Have there been any withdrawals from his accounts?
No, ma'am.
You said Lexus?
Yes.
Where is Lexus now?
With Jay's sister, Taylor Carey.
And who took Lexus from Oxford?
My daughter, Jessica Coleman.
So did Jay ever come back and get Lexus?
No, ma'am.
Did you all ever get Jay's stuff from Oxford?
It's still here being housed in Oxford. We got some.
So y'all came and got some of his stuff?
Yes, ma'am.
Did y'all had access to his apartment?
Yes, ma'am.
When you had access to his apartment, were his bags packed?
No, ma'am.
Were items of clothing missing?
No, ma'am.
From what you could tell, were his prized possessions still there?
Yes, ma'am.
You stated that you and Jay talk every day.
Yes, ma'am.
Was Jay happy?
Yes, he was.
Did he ever express to you anything about wanting to end his life?
No, ma'am.
Brief indulgence.
So they never found his body, but after a period of time, his parents they asked to have him declared as unalive. So as you guys heard, the last time that she got a text, the last communication she had from him was the text message. The other communications that they are alleged to have, of course, we haven't seen it be introduced yet, but there's text messages between the defendant and the victim, saying that Jay was going to go over to Sheldon's house, and then Sheldon looking up how long does it take to strangle someone, as well as
Has
Sheldon.
Jay ever disappeared for long periods of time?
No, ma'am.
Since you gave birth to him, have you ever gone a day without talking to him?
No, ma'am.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness? Ms. Lee, do you recognize this photograph?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
And does that photograph accurately represent what Jay looked like in 2022 when he was 20 years old?
Yes, ma'am.
And has there been any alterations to it since it was provided to the state?
No, ma'am.
Your Honor. And who was it a picture of? I apologize.
It's my son, Jay Lee. So it's his first day of his first job when he first graduated high school.
Your Honor, at this time I move to enter into evidence photograph of Jay.
Any objections? Any objections? All right, photograph being admitted. Is you gonna do these S1, D1s, or how you doing?
S1.
All right. S1 be admitted.
Your Honor, may I publish the jury?
You may. Let the bailiff. Oh, you're gonna do it the newfangled way. Go ahead.
Just a minute.
We can display that there. There we go.
Y'all screen working over there? Okay, let me know if they ever don't, okay?
Okay.
Help you with the
Just a little
song.
bit of glare. Oh, it's just a screen? It's just my screen. Okay. Miss Lee,
Yes,
is that the photo, S1 of, S1, that you just identified of your son?
yes, ma'am.
And is that, that accurately represents what he looked like when you last saw him?
Actually, he had braids. He had put some braids in his hair.
Okay, so having braids in his hair, how did Jay normally like to dress?
Flamboyant. He's,
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you very well.
he's real flamboyant. He's had this outgoing, he would put on silk slacks and shirts, flower shirts, nice shirts to go with it. And
So you said he flamboyantly dressed.
yes,
He was a happy kid.
he's very happy.
Everybody good on the jury? All right. You made it, crossing now.
You're done with the, exhibit, John?
You can move if you like. That's a court report.
Okay, I got you. Ms. Lee, good morning.
Morning.
This photograph, your direct testimony, this was taken when you graduated high school, is that correct? Or
It was
shortly
the
after?
summer, so it was shortly after.
And when did he braid his hair? Did you do that shortly after you got to Ole Miss?
It was different times he would do it. It wasn't shortly after. It was different times. He would wear different hairstyles.
And for purposes of the record, you stated you went to Oxford and arrived about what time?
And give your exact time that I arrived.
Okay. And prior to this particular date, can you tell me the last time you had been to Jay Lee's apartment?
I came down, last time I came to his apartment was in May when he graduated college,
Okay.
receiving his bachelor's degree.
So in May, you came to see him,
Graduate.
graduate, went by his apartment in May, and the next time would have been July the 8th when you left.
No, that's not correct.
Okay,
He
when's the
also
next
came
time?
down for the 4th of July holiday.
Okay.
He had just left home for the 4th of July holiday. He came down for the holiday weekend.
I just want to make sure, came to graduation 4th of July weekend, and did you stay at Jay's farm?
No, actually, he came home for the holiday, 4th of July.
No, I'm sorry, Ms. Lee, I don't think you understood my question. If I ask a question and.
What was your
My
question?
question was the last time you had come to Oxford and been to his
The
apartment.
last time I came in May when he graduated college.
That's what, so he came home in July,
That's correct.
and he had braids in his hair that time?
No, he did not.
Okay, but he wore braids regularly and dressed flamboyantly during this time frame of July the 8th.
Different times he would change his sense of style, his hairstyles.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lee, that's all I have.
Are you ready?
Ms. Lee, you said the last time you saw, was July 4th the last time you saw Jay in person?
Actually, it was July 6th before I went to work that morning. Jay was at home, but he also had a job that he holds. So he went to leave Jackson to come back to Oxford before I got off work that evening.
Okay. And the July 4th holiday was like a family thing?
It was a family gathering, yes, ma'am.
And so he was in Jackson July 4th and then July 6th, and he went back up to Oxford for work for July 7th.
Yes, ma'am.
No further questions.
This week you find excused so that she can be in the courtroom.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Lee, you're excused as a witness. If you wish to stay in the courtroom, you can, or you're free to go. When you like, okay?
So Beta, they claim to have Jay.
Our next witness, so we're gonna need some time before. Y'all discuss that and see if we're gonna need to ask the jury to step out. Y'all gonna get plenty of exercise. It's gonna be on a short burst, but y'all gonna get a lot of exercise. Especially the man, a guy on crutches anyway. A lot of exercise. So remember court instructions, don't discuss the case, don't want to press upon any opinions about the case.
Yeah, Finn.
Honeybook completely changed how I do business. I'm a photographer
I'm assuming too, like they
and independent business. It's a fact.
video of Jay, and so I feel like they were trying to get a description of him, what he last looked like, what he had on, to say if it was him or not. Fancy, that's a good argument too, though.
Provided to the defense or not.
Should have been in the discovery.
Let's get down to yes or no. So now y'all.
Her name was disclosed in the 1121
Okay, wait a minute.
disclosure of witness.
All right.
Looking at seals will never be the same, y'all. It'll never be the same. Shout out to everybody that's watching.
Mr. Creekmore, who would you state call as a connected witness?
State college.
Jennifer Buford. I understand there's objection to Ms. Buford's testimony.
It is.
Tell me what that objection is.
No, her name was disclosed in the 1121 disclosure of witness. This morning, I received from the state contents of emails between Ms. Buford and apparently Jay Lee, the alleged victim in this case this morning. I would object to, first of all, the untimely disclosure on the 21st, and certainly the untimely disclosure content.
On the 21st, was anything revealed to you as to what the nature of Ms. Buford's testimony was intended to be?
It was not.
What is the intended nature of Ms. Buford's testimony?
She is the advisor at the University of Mississippi for Jay Lee. And, you know, her name was disclosed, probably as on November 21st, 2024. Prior to that, there should have been at one of those discovery conferences, I'm sure we've talked about her and made her available, anybody available, and what they intended to say.
It's,
I don't
was the defense advised of what the nature of Ms. Buford's testimony was going to be? That's a yes or no. That's a yes or no, not necessarily in writing, but at some point was Ms. Buford, what Ms. Buford's proposed testimony, was that provided to the defense or not?
It should have been in the discovery.
Let's get down to yes or no. So now y'all are all off the court. It was or it wasn't anyway.
Okay. Officer of the court, again,
It's,
8:45 this morning, we received an email of conversations.
prior to that was the defense advised as to what the nature of Ms. Buford's proposed testimony was? Would it be orally, writtenly, or anything else?
I believe that they would be able to look back in October of this year when subpoenas were issued for her records. And there would have been a return on the subpoena. And I know that we, as a rule, have them sent to defense. So they should have the return on the subpoena that we got from that October 2024.
Do you have a copy of that subpoena and what it asked for?
Should be in the file now.
I was hoping somebody beside me would look for what do y'all have an independent copy other than the court's file here? When would that have been?
October 2024.
Y'all have that on the computer. Look right now and see if you've got a subpoena for the records of Ms. Buford and what specifically that subpoena asked for.
September 30th of 2024. I've got a electronic copy of it. email records between Jennifer Buford, University of Mississippi employee, and Jimmy D. Lee, University of Mississippi student.
Just let me look at it anyway, if you don't mind.
What date was that?
September 30th.
I'm trying to speed it up a little bit. If we can't hear, I'll slow it back down.
Was the defense copy made aware of this subpoena?
I should have gotten it whenever we filed it.
Can't hear what you're saying, y'all.
Well, I guess it'd be more proper for me to talk to Mr. Creekmore. I've looked at, you can take it. You can take it. Procedurally, when a subpoena was issued in this matter, how, if any manner, was the defense copied on the subpoenas?
If not, MEC should send it to them.
Subpoena was filed under seal, John.
I'm hearing a lot of, I think, and I'd like to hear a lot of yes or no.
Didn't receive anything.
Will the defense represent the court that they did not receive this copy of this subpoena?
I'll ask.
That's yes or no, anyway.
We did go and get a copy from the clerk later on, a copy of the sealed subpoenas. We have not got any return on that subpoena. None has been filed, I don't believe, the court filed.
So the defense has received a copy where the state subpoenaed the email records of Ms. Buford concerning the emails.
We retrieved that copy. We did, Your Honor.
I'd like to see the emails yourself, which will be proposed and introduced into evidence.
We're not going to use the emails themselves. And I sent the emails to them this morning, just so they would have them available.
You're not going to attempt to introduce those emails into evidence?
Those are just to get into what was the nature of their discussions. Her as an advisor to Jay Lee, and they would have them available. And I knew she was going to be called as a witness. There's a lot of documents, and I'm pretty sure that when we've instructed our investigator to get with their office to make sure that everything we have is everything that we have, I assumed that was part of it.
What was part of it?
The emails.
The emails?
Right. So sending them today was just putting them on notice that we did call Ms. Buford as a witness, and she is the first witness on the state's disclosure.
I'm not going to let you introduce any emails between. Tell me what, if you're not going to try to introduce emails between the parties, what is the proposed testimony of Ms. Buford?
That she was Jay Lee's advisor, that he graduated with honors, that she was also over the internship program and was supervising him during the internship. Even though he walked, he still had that internship program that he was doing in the summer of 2022, in July of 2022. Plus, he also had, she had communications with him about Lexi, the dog, being able to be with him on campus. And that's it.
What's added to that? What's added to that we hadn't already heard anyway? What of that has not been covered by his mom, Mr. Lee's brother?
The fact that it comes from the advisor, independent relationship. She is his advisor, supervisor of the internship program, and that he independently had communications with her about the school, about the dog. These are all important to establish that he's not the kind of person that is just going to be.
I'm going to limit it, very limited, and I'll cut you off real short. I'm going to let you talk very limited about Ms. Buford. She was listed on the witness list. Those text messages, unless the state can state affirmatively that those emails were provided to the state, and to the defense, and I see the defense shaking their head. They wasn't, unless the state is prepared to say that they, prior to this morning, gave those emails. I'm not going to let those emails be introduced into evidence this time, but I will let you question her about the relationship. You want to say something? Go ahead. Okay.
Exactly. I like that. 4-3. Okay. You will not get up here and be a
First of all, I'm going to have to do this on every witness that we're going to have on this thing. It's giving an impression to the jury that I'm trying to, objecting, and I don't know how to handle it.
The jury's not here. Right?
I understand that, but I'm voicing my objections in front of the jury.
I understand your objection. I'm going to cut the state off real short.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Keep it very brief, very limited to.
Is she here? Close, I can ask her a couple of questions.
I'll give you an opportunity. All right. Somebody get Ms. Buford.
She's in that.
Y'all let her talk.
Okay, defense. He chatty.
I'm just emailing you. Hey, I'm just- All right.
All right, let me see if I can just speed up a little bit and I get the witness in here.
Make sure you ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Can you tell the jury who you are and what you do?
Hi, my name is Jennifer Buford. I work at the University of Mississippi in the Department of Social Work. I serve as a clinical instructor of social work and field education director. And Jay Lee was in my class at the time that he went missing.
How long have you been in that position?
I've worked at the University of Mississippi for approximately 12 years.
And have you been a field supervisor? Is that what you called it?
Field education director.
Field education director. What does that mean?
I supervise field education internships for social work students at both at the bachelor's and the master's level.
Okay, placing students in a professional setting.
That's correct. Making
Students,
sure that they meet CSWE competencies as they are practicing.
and you said Jay Lee was a participant. And what was his major? Do you know?
Social work.
Social work.
Bachelor's and social work student.
Were there requirements, like standards before they could participate?
Sure.
In that internship program?
Before they can intern, students are required to complete all other classwork, all classes aside from the internship and seminar class.
All right, so in May of 2022, had Jay Lee completed his requirements for his degree?
All of the requirements aside from the internship and seminar class, which is a 12-hour class.
And as far as those requirements, do you know whether he graduated with any kind of honors or anything of that nature? Do you know?
His graduation was an honorary
Okay.
graduation because he wasn't there to complete.
But as far as scholastic honors, do you know whether he had any scholastic honors?
No, I do not.
You're saying he didn't, or you don't know?
I don't know that he did. No.
Okay. And do you know whether he participated in any groups, organizations on the campus?
He was a member of the Black Student Union Association and ASB,
Okay.
Associated Student Body, and worked with the LGBTQ community on campus.
Okay, with that organization? Do you know if he held any positions in those organizations?
From his email signature, he said he was director
Okay.
of that.
All right. Can you tell the jury how long when you first became aware of Jay Lee in a professional capacity, him as a student and you as a field education advisor?
So I met Jay Lee in the fall of 2021 when he was enrolled in Social Work 335, which is Social Work Practice 1. My next class with Jay Lee was in the spring of 2022, where he was enrolled with fields of social work, where we were preparing for the internship experience in that class. And then the last time in the summer of 2022, where he was completing his internship experience.
Were you able to make any observations about him as a person, his personality?
Jay Lee was a strong presence. He was very outspoken, expressive, and he communicated his thoughts and feelings, very well.
Do you know whether he had a pet?
I do know that he had a pet because he reached out to me once the first semester, and asked if it was okay if he could bring his pet to class.
Did you authorize that?
No, I cannot authorize that because it was against the policies, but he, asked every one of his teachers if he could bring his Pomeranian, I believe it was, who he'd had for 10 years.
All right. Did you actually recommend that he be placed in an internship setting?
I met with him to discuss various options. including what his interests were and what internships were available. And through that, we together decided that CPS was the choice that he actually ended up working at, Lafayette County CPS. So, and
What is the Lafayette County CPS?
that's Child Protective Services.
And what do they do?
They protect the children of Lafayette County from child abuse, neglect,
Things of that nature?
investigate, yes.
All right, and your responsibilities as the field advisor, did that, while he was in that program, would you have been in contact with him
Oh, yes.
daily, weekly?
Our class would meet on Fridays, usually from 10 to 12. Other than that, I would meet, as a matter of fact, the last time I met with him and the field instructor was in June, mid-June, for our midterm evaluation.
Midterm evaluation. So on July 8th of 2022, would Jay Lee have been still placed with the Lafayette County CPS?
That's correct.
How long was that program to continue?
Until the
Until he got
end of
his
July. Okay, so he had to complete 400 hours during that summer.
And do you know how many hours he had completed up until July the 8th?
He was within a few weeks of being finished.
Wasn't done?
No.
Okay. And how did you find out that he never showed back up at his spot as an intern at Lafayette County CPS after July the 8th?
I believe his field instructor reached out and told me that he was not at the internship. And she was just kind of concerned about him. Yeah.
Let's bring it to an end anyway.
Had anybody ever contacted you about Jay Lee not showing up where he was supposed to be prior to that?
Prior to that, no.
That's all I have.
Cross-examination?
Your Honor, no questions for this witness.
All right. May this witness be finally excused?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for being here, Ms. Buford. You're welcome to stay. You're free to go, okay?
But I will say they are rolling.
All right. Normally lunch is whenever we get to a stopping point. And today, the stopping point just happens to be the time your lunch gets here anyway. We got lucky today, but don't expect us to be so punctual every time. But most days, rather than trying to hurry you up and get you here, there, and the other, we're going to bring your lunch to you, and we're going to carry you out at night and feed you a good meal. But we're going to let you eat here today. Remember the court's instructions. Don't discuss the case even amongst your fellow jurors. Don't inform or express any opinions. Don't want to talk to you about the case. And don't try to investigate the case. That being said, have a good lunch. And counsel table at the bench and at the podium there. There appear to be a mobile and wireless. I don't have a problem with them situated back on the rail or somewhere out of the way of catching conversation between counsel and the client or co-counsel. But I understand the need for private conversations. And if somebody from the media wants to come take possession of them, they can, or we can relocate them ourselves. But and we've got a good enough microphone system.
So there's no microphones at the council seats. No microphones. There are no microphones either way. There's a microphone here, there's a microphone there, and a microphone on the witness stand.
So if there's none at council table, they were indicating to me that there were microphones there. Are there? You think so?
Bench in the left.
Well, we can get now.
TV is coming to join the team.
Okay. Come on in. Come on there.
Just plug in like everybody else.
All right, they're working on microphones. We're going to skip our phone pass.
Mr. Reyes, please introduce yourself to the jury.
My name is Jose Reyes. I've been a good friend with Jay Lee since undergrad. And I live in Marshall County with my family. And I went to school here for undergrad and also graduate school for social work.
Hey, so that was a lot. So tell me, you were good friends with Jay Lee.
Yes.
So you're familiar with the victim in Jay's case.
Correct, yes.
But before we get into that, you said you went to undergrad. Where did you go for undergrad?
Here at the University of Mississippi.
Okay, and what year did you come to the University of Mississippi?
2019.
Have you graduated?
Yes, ma'am. I graduated in 2023 with my undergraduate, and then I came back and did my master's and finished this past summer.
And what is your degree in?
Social work.
Is your master's in that as well?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you currently employed in that field?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
What do you do for work?
I work as a therapist in community mental health.
So let's go on to Jay Lee. How did you meet him?
Funny enough, we met at an Ariana Grande concert in 2019. We were actually living in the same residence hall, but we didn't know about that until later when we met at that concert. And then ever since then, we both realized we love Ariana Grande. And since then, we've just hit it off. And then we later discovered that we were also in the same major. So we just stuck together since then.
And so you said that would be 2019 when you were a freshman?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And up until his disappearance in 2022, were you all still close friends?
Yes, ma'am.
Could you sort of describe your friendship?
The best way I would describe our friendship would be very much like a sisterly bond, meaning like we would banter, we would gossip, very playful friendship. It was more so like a sister. I didn't really consider Jay Lee as a friend, more so as a sister, but not even like he did identify with he, him pronouns and was cisgender, but more so like, and I guess in queer world, sister's just like your sis. But
Well, actually, I'll have you explain that more.
Yeah.
You said that he saw him as a sister. Did Jay Lee identify as a woman?
he did not. He was actually cisgendered. He was comfortable with how he was born. That may not appear at the way he presented himself physically, but we had many conversations. He said that he identified as male, was comfortable in his skin.
So when you say presents himself physically, how did he dress?
Fashionable would be a term. Very unapologetically, very true to himself. He did not care who's had anything to say. If he wanted to wear high heels for his 9 a.m. on a Tuesday, he definitely would.
So kind of tell me more about his personality. What was Jay like?
Very vibrant, very private, very silly, very caring, very compassionate. As we spoke, we were both in the same field. We were going towards social work, so you can only imagine how much compassion, how much love and care he had for other people. Very silly, outgoing, family oriented.
So I kind of want to go back for a minute, just in case the jury didn't fully make it understand. You used the term cisgendered. You were trying to say essentially that Jay identified as a man and that's how he was born, and he knew he was a man.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Are you aware of Jay ever tried to trick anyone to think he was a woman?
No, ma'am.
But Joey's comfortable being male.
Yes, ma'am.
You said that he was family oriented. Did he talk about his family?
Yes, quite often. He seemed like he had a very, very close connection with his family. He would mention to me that he was supposed to speak to his mother daily. He would tell me about his stories with him and his sister. Okay, can you hear me loud and clear though?
Yes, you can make sure just speak a little up. It's kind of a big room. Okay. And so you were saying that you were saying that he was family oriented, and y'all spoke about that.
Yes.
Okay. And you would say y'all were really close friends?
Yes, ma'am.
As a part of that, how often did you all talk to each other?
Daily. We would text here and there, and every once in a while, I'd get my FaceTime call from him.
So did the communication stay the same throughout the school year or into the summer? Did anything change?
I mean, it dwindled a little bit considering he started his internship, so he was fairly busy with his internship. And I was busy trying to enjoy it a little bit of my summer before I went back to school. I also had a job at that time, but he was mostly tied up with his internship responsibilities.
So in July 2022, did you still hear from Jay Lee often?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember when the last time you spoke to Jay Lee was?
It was actually the day before on Thursday. It was around close to the end of the day. I believe it was like 4:57, 58. I remember getting a FaceTime call from him. I had just came back from a walk around the neighborhood, and I got a call, and he was just telling me about his day. He was ready to go. It wasn't a long conversation, but we definitely did speak on that Thursday.
And that Thursday would be July 7th?
Correct, yes.
So when you spoke to Jay, was he in a good mood? What was his attitude like?
Yeah, he was in a good mood, happy that it was the end of the day. He was just telling me we should do something this weekend.
So without getting into anything that he particularly said, was he in a happy mood? Was he sad, depressed? Was he in a good mood?
He seemed in a good mood, yes. He was in good spirits.
Okay. And in your friendship with Jay, had you ever experienced him any type of suicidal ideation or any type of thing of that nature?
None at all.
And is that something you would recognize considering your field work?
For sure. He definitely has a loud, vibrant personality, so I definitely would have noticed something off if there was anything like that.
Are you aware of if Jay had any social media accounts?
Yes.
Okay, can you kind of tell me a few of the social media accounts that he had?
Well, Instagram, of course, Facebook, Twitter, which was what it was called at that point, TikTok.
And about how often did he post on these accounts?
Fairly often. I consider Jay Lee as my little celebrity. He would post on live He would post just about anything. If it was a award show, if it was something that was going on, I would expect to hear from him somewhere online.
Would it be fair to say you would see a post from him somewhere daily?
Can you repeat your question?
Would it be fair to say that you would see a post from Jay, maybe a story or anything on one of the social media accounts daily?
Yes, there would not be a day that Jay Lee would not post, whether it was something of him or just something that he had reshared or reposted. He was online pretty actively.
Since July 8th, 2022, have you seen any posts, new posts from Jay Lee?
Unfortunately, no. I wish I had. I miss my little celebrity.
And let's talk a little bit more about, did Jay have any pets?
You have any pets?
Yes.
Yes, he had this spoiled Pomeranian named Lexi. That was his daughter, pretty much.
Do you know if he was close to Lexi or Lexus, the dog?
He was very, very close to, yes, I love that you included her government name. Yes, he's very close to Lexi. He would not really go anywhere without her. She had a backseat cage just for her, and it wasn't even a cage. She was spoiled, like I said, so it was like a little pink, comfy couch for her. She was always with him.
How did you know that they were close?
I mean, it was so obvious. I mean, during this time, we would probably have their Christmas photo card by now. I remember one year, he dressed her up in,
Continue with your answer. You said that around this time they would be sending out the Christmas photo shoot. What 1 year, what did they do?
he would dress Lexi up and he would be in his Christmas jammies and pose in front of the Christmas tree, and that would be their photo shoot. They would often go on museum dates, go on walks. She was very, very spoiled.
As to Jay Lee's, how did Jay Lee get around Oxford? Do you know?
Usually through his own car.
Do you remember what kind of car he had?
Before he went missing, he had I believe, a black Impala.
But it was a black like sedan type car.
Yes.
Did he ever allow you to drive that car?
Only once, and that was strictly for me to run an errand for him.
And what was the errand?
To get his oil changed.
So if you needed to borrow it to go someplace, did he allow you to drive it places?
No, I never really got to joyride it. Besides that one time I took it to get his oil changed. I believe he was probably getting like his hair done or something at that time.
You sort of talked about the LGBTQ community and that you all were sisters. Are you also part of the LGBTQ community?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you familiar with the term down low?
I am.
What does that mean?
Down low would be a word to kind of describe someone who may be a little discreet in their identity, may not really be comfortable with being known that they have interest in same-sex or LGBTQI activities or things. So kind of like how it sounds down low, just keeping it on the down low, very discreet, not wanting to be known that they were also into that kind of stuff.
And so would that mean that people who are down low, are they, like you said, you identified yourself as a part of the LGBTQ community. Is that something a person on the down low would do in public in court like this?
Can you repeat your question?
So you testified that you are a part of the LGBTQ community. Based on your definition of down low, is that something a person who identifies as down low would do, identify themselves publicly?
No, they definitely would not. Very discreet.
Brief indulgence. On the day, July 8th, 2022, I believe you said the last time you talked to him was on the 7th, right? The day before?
Yes, that's correct.
So on July 8th, 2022, did you have any contact with Jay Lee?
Yes, I reached out to him sometime in the middle of the day because I had not responded to his last message from him. And I had sent him, it was like a music video, but I did not hear back from him. And then I later reached out again once I realized that we were wondering where he was.
So how did you learn that no one knew where he was?
I was contacted by his sister, just asking me, had I heard from him? And I said no. So at that point, that made me concerned because it must mean a lot of his sisters reaching out to me.
What did you do after having learned that information? Did you try to call him, check on him?
So I instantly texted him. Obviously, I texted him, and upon texting him, I noticed that the messages were green, meaning that they didn't send fully. He had an iPhone, and I have an iPhone, so they weren't blue. And that's when I was like, okay, this is weird. And then I started calling him. I started calling him. Nothing was going through, and that's when I started getting more concerned. At that point, I didn't know what to think.
And did you try to search for him or do anything of that nature?
So after not hearing from him and after my phone calls not going through, my text going green, yes. So at the time, I believe if I remember correctly, I was at my parents' house with an ex-boyfriend, and I was like, something's up. I asked him, would you mind coming with me?
He said what she said.
I didn't hear you here, so answer the question anyway.
The question I had asked Mr. Reyes was if you had tried to look for him and you said you were at your parents' house and that you were the ex-boyfriend and you were telling your ex-boyfriend that you were worried. What happened next?
So at that point, I suggested, can we go? Because I live in Potts Camp, so for reference, that's like 50 minutes from here in Marshall County. And I was like, can we go up there just to see, like, at least if his car's at his parked outside of his apartment complex. And then my parents, they weren't comfortable with me and him going alone, so they accompanied us as well. So we all hopped in our family vehicle and we headed to Oxford to his apartment complex. His vehicle was not there. I went up to his door. He was not there. I knocked on his door and all I could hear was Lexi through the door.
So you could hear the dog in there. And since that time, have you seen or heard from your friend Jay Lee?
I have not.
Brief indulgence.
Ask you a couple of questions about your social media connections or contact with Jay Lee. Can you tell me what accounts that you used through Snapchat or Instagram when you communicated with Mr. Lee?
So we would primarily contact each other through iMessage, so through text. Every once in a while, we would send something to each other through Instagram, like a funny video or a post that we saw online.
Okay. And would it be a fair statement that that you were familiar with Mr. Lee's, according to what your direct testimony was, his sexual preferences?
Can you repeat your question?
Are you familiar with Mr. Lee's sexual preferences?
As far as?
Through your conversations with him, whether or not he was homosexual or bisexual or what he identified as. You're familiar with that, being in the same community with him, correct?
Yes.
And is it a fair statement that Mr. Lee was transsexual? Is that a fair statement?
It is not.
Well, tell me, based on what I understand on the reports that I've been provided, information that would lead someone to believe that's the fact. What is your representation that he was straight?
So as I mentioned previously, I said that he was cisgender, and he also liked men as well, but he was comfortable in his own skin.
All right, but as far as his activity, and you knew him, apparently y'all were best friends or close to being really good friends, right?
Yes.
Okay. As far as your connection with him, is it a fair statement that Mr. Lee would dress up as a woman or in that manner and hook up with men, both of the community as well as individuals that you characterized as down low? Fair statement?
What was your question? What was your
question? Is he dressed up flamboyantly as basically as a woman, correct? A lot of times.
He dressed as Jay Lee.
Okay, Jay Lee, but I understand. But if someone, he just dressed up, if you just looked at him, he appeared to be dressed up as a woman on a lot of occasions, or at least in a feminine manner. Is that a fair statement?
Dressed very fashionably.
Okay, all right. So would it also be a fair statement that he, quote unquote, liked to hook up with people that were on the down low?
Excuse me?
Was it a fair statement based on, is it a fair statement based on what you know about Jay Lee that he liked to hook up with individuals that were, what you testified earlier, were on the down low, that he liked to do that? Is that right?
What's the relevancy to this question, sir? Can you rephrase it? I'm sorry.
Well, I want to, and I'm trying not to ask you anything that I understand that you've already provided in the statement, but my question is that whether or not Jay Lee liked to hook up with individuals, I'm not saying whether it's men or women or what, but individuals that were on the down low, he'd like to do that, correct?
No.
Well, do you recall on July the 11th, giving a statement to Sergeant Douglas and Lieutenant Queen Jones, where you in fact told him?
I don't know what statute says. I don't know. Not general statute. So, no approach.
Right. So they're basically trying to paint the narrative that like he hooked up with people that was down low. And I guess they're gonna try to throw the blame off of their client on somebody else. Yes, I have.
Again, Mr. Reyes, do you recall giving a statement on July the 11th to Sergeant Douglas and Lieutenant Queen Jones? I believe, I don't know exactly where you were, but do you remember giving a statement to those two police officers?
What was the statement?
Well, I'm just asking, do you remember talking to them first?
Yes.
Okay. And do you remember making the statement to them, or did you in fact make the statement to them that Lee liked to hook up the people who were on the down low?
Is that what it says?
Making that statement.
It was 2 years ago, so I'm not quite sure what exactly I said.
You can't admit or deny that you made the statement. Is that fair to say? I'm going to, but I want to make sure you give one more opportunity. Do you remember making that statement?
No, I do not remember making that statement.
Mayor,
I have an objection to this as well, because that's not his statement. That's.
Trying to impeach the witness. Did the guy actually? So, chat. The body of Jay Lee has never been found. What they did find is that the defendant actually met up with Jay Lee. That's some of the evidence that they have that hasn't been presented yet. So I should really say that their theory is, the state's theory is that Jay Lee met up with the defendant and the defendant killed him. When they went through his phone records, they are alleging that he searched how long does it take to strangle someone. They have him on video camera leaving Jay Lee's car. And then they also have him going to his parents' house, getting a wheelbarrow and a shovel. So we heard his mom testify. She basically, like we talk every day. The last time I talked to him was a while ago, but it was the day of my birthday. He disappeared. He didn't call me. And now the friend is testifying. So he don't recall. Yep, and search for international flights. Yes, Brittany, thank you. So I'm a speed it up so they start talking again. So oh, well, this was
Just out of curiosity, can y'all hear me when I'm up here, Mr.? Good, that's next post.
Maybe. John, I'd like to have this item marked, identification.
Identification first. Mark. Guess that's gonna be D1.
Can we just do 1, 2, 3, 4?
May I approach the witness, young man? Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
I want you to look at this, what's been identified in D1. And if you would look over it, please, and read it and tell me, after you read it, let me know that you've read it, okay? It's 2 pages. You done with this, right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. After having reviewed offenses for identification, people, when you recall making those statements to the two detectives, records, early investigators, you remember making that statement?
A similar statement, but I'm not sure if I used those terms that you stated.
And also, can you state whether or not, based on your relationship with Mr. Lee, having knowledge of his activity within the community, whether or not he would hook up with people on a regular basis?
What does a regular basis look like?
Well, regular basis, I mean, have sexual contact or hookups referenced in this with, I mean, more than once a week, on a regular basis.
Oh, no, Jay Lee was very protective about that stuff. He only did so with people he had talked to, at least for a little bit.
Okay. And in fact, he didn't tell you the names of any of the people that he hooked up with, but provided to you nicknames, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And as far as the statement that you made to Miss Douglas, Detective Sergeant Douglas and Lieutenant Jones, you did that voluntarily. They just interviewed you to basically, this was on July the 11th, just brought you in, interviewed, it was voluntary on your part, and you were free and open about your relationship with Jay Lee, your friendship, things of that nature. Fair statement?
Fair.
Can you tell me the names of the social media, either Snapchat or Instagram messages or anything like that? You previously testified that y'all just really Snapchatted, right? Mostly. Did you ever do any social media or Instagram with him through any accounts at all?
What do you mean?
Did you message him through any Instagram accounts ever?
Yes, I stated earlier that we contacted each other mostly through iMessage and every once in a while through Instagram and Snapchat.
I thought that's what you said. I want to make sure.
Yes, sir.
What was the name of your account at that time
Which account?
that you used primarily with Jay Lee?
I would use my Instagram account. I'm not too sure what it's actually called, but it's a variation of my name, Jose.
Okay. And look, Mr. Reyes, I'm not trying to tie you down. Remember what you used 2 years ago. If you recall, if you can recall that account that you used during that time frame that you communicated with Jay Lee.
Yes, I said it was a variation of my name, Jose. So it was spelled HOE.SAY.
Okay. And do you recall the name of the account that you communicated with Mr. Lee?
I know he went through several changes in his username. I want to say it might have been something like I am Jay Lee or something of that nature.
Okay. Now, you indicated that that you never had any conversations where Mr. Lee ever had any suicidal thoughts or ideations of suicide. You did have conversations with him through social media or through some of these accounts about Jay Lee's, for lack of a better word, promiscuous conduct in his life, correct?
Can you rephrase that?
You had conversations, did you not, through your Snapchat, Instagram, things of that nature, where you had, not getting into the details of it, but you had conversations with Jay Lee about his activities within the community there, as far as hookups, names he would provide, things that he did, things that he preferred, things like that, right? I mean, you were close friends. You had those conversations, right?
Yes.
Okay. And part of those conversations, as I understand, was that, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong or untoward about it, but some of these conversations involve conduct on Mr. Lee's part, where you kind of enjoyed the fact that you see guys out and be dressed like a woman, and they kind of find out he was a woman, like later on, you kind of enjoyed that, didn't you?
No.
You did not enjoy that?
Like he would not dress up as a woman to meet these people.
Okay. Well, he dressed up in a feminine way, fair statement, right?
Generally, yes, but not just specifically to hook up, as you say.
But he did dress up during courting, as I understand it, some of the information that's been provided as a result of search warrants that were done on behalf of the Oxford Police Department, University Police Department, that he would hook up with individuals dressed in the manner that you previously described in your testimony, right? As dressed up, feminine, flamboyant, and in a manner, he dressed up and met people in that fashion, right? When he was dressed up like that, right?
No, sir.
He never did that?
He may have, but that wasn't, he did not dress up just to meet with these people.
Mr. Reyes, I didn't say that, but just to meet those people, he did that generally.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
During the course of, quote unquote, some of the hookups that you referenced, he would dress in that manner, fair to say?
He dressed that yes,
Okay.
generally, yes.
And also, you're familiar with the fact that Jay Lee, as far as his routine and habit there in the community, as far as LGBTQ community, he was one of the individuals that was well recognized in the community in the Oxford area, right?
Yes.
And also, that you state that he wouldn't go anywhere without the dog, but he didn't take his dog out when he was engaged in hookup with folks in this area. Fair statement?
That's fair.
And also these hookups that you're making reference to, a lot of times, Mr. Reyes, some of these hookups for people, and let's be honest, that they've never met before, except through social media, that he would meet through social media, get dressed, or go meet people out in the community late at night, all hours of the day. Fair statement?
I don't believe they were random, or I don't believe they were.
I'm not necessarily saying they're random. I'm saying whether or not he would meet them through social media or through conversations as a result of his activity in the community. A lot of times we go out and meet them in different places in the community, right?
I'm not familiar with where he was meeting them at.
Well, it'd be a fair statement, would it not, Mr. Reyes, that Jay Lee likewise was participating in the download aspect of that community. Those individuals you described, that they keep it secret, but he was participating in that aspect of the download community. Fair statement?
No, not a
Well,
fair statement.
You do know that he used nicknames for certain individuals that he hooked up with. One of the nicknames, according to your statement, was medical student, nickname of confusion, and other nicknames that Jay Lee used to associate those names with people that you didn't know. He kept it himself, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So it would be a fair statement, as what you described as in download community. He was working, or he was doing things that he was keeping secrets from you and all other people that, or at least to you, about what he was doing in his personal sexual life and sexual activity that he was carrying on. Fair statement?
Can you rephrase your statement,
He
please?
wasn't telling you everything he was doing in his private life.
Correct.
But he did represent to you that he had associated names with numbers of people, whether it be confusion or medical students, and there were other nicknames that he told you about, right? Numerous nicknames of other people, right?
Maybe not numerous. Those are just a few of the ones that I recall.
Okay. Those are all that you can recall at the time you gave that statement. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Ooh, cut your phone off.
Before we go. When you got back to, when you went by Mr. Lee's apartment, what was it? Did you go inside?
I did not go inside.
Excuse me.
I did not go inside. The door was locked from the outside.
The door was locked from the outside?
We stayed on campus, so the way the doors work on campus, you have to have key card access. That's the only way you can get into the room.
You know how many times you were interviewed, Mr. Reyes, by members either the University Police Department or Oxford Police Department?
No, sir, I cannot recall.
You don't recall any of those conversations?
I recall the conversation.
I'm sorry, I'm taking my question. You don't remember how many times you were interviewed?
No, sir.
That's all right.
Jose, I want to give you a chance to clear some stuff up I was confused about on cross-examination.
Okay.
So, what was Jay Lee's sexual orientation?
Homosexual.
So he was gay?
Yes.
Okay. And I believe defense counsel was asking about like transsexual, like when you stated Jay Lee's gender, what did Jay Lee identify as?
Male.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Males.
Male.
So as I mentioned earlier, cisgender. So he was born male. He was comfortable with his male, like how he was. Yes.
And you believe they said that he would dress as in a feminine way sometimes. That's what was said on cross. Was that accurate? Sometimes he would dress in a feminine way.
In a fashionable way, yes, ma'am.
Yes. And when he would dress that way, was that his usual thing?
Yes, ma'am.
And so, like, when you say fashionable, was he wearing dresses every day, pants every day? Like, what? Describe some of that.
I mean, sometimes it might be a pantsuit, sometimes it might be a dress. It just depended on his mood. Obviously in college, sometimes we're running late, so sometimes it was sweats and a sweatshirt, but mostly when he could, he would dress to the fullest.
And just so we can make sure that it's clear, did he dress this way, as far as your knowledge, to attract men?
No, ma'am, he dressed that way for himself. I don't think he ever seeked validation from men, like I said earlier, very unapologetically.
We talked about participating in the down low culture. Was Jay Lee down low?
No, ma'am. As fashionably as he dressed, no, ma'am.
So it was obvious that he was gay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. But when opposing counsel was talking about participating in the down low culture, I think he was referencing Jay didn't out people.
Correct.
Can you kind of explain what that means to out people?
So a lot of times, as I mentioned, sometimes men that are down low, they may not be ready to really reveal their interests, who they really are. So, and obviously, people come from different households and different settings. So, outing somebody could essentially be telling other people that this person is XYZ without their consent. So a lot of times, we will like protect identities just to be courteous. Some people may not be ready for that, so we'd be mindful and we would not out anybody.
So people who are not ready come out. Why is that?
I mean, that can be a number of reasons. I couldn't just put one thing. Like I mentioned, family, fear of being discriminated, stuff of that nature.
And so these men that are on the down low, they're trying to keep this a secret, correct?
I believe so.
They don't want to be exposed, correct?
Correct.
Now, did you know Jay's type?
I mean, I believe he would like go towards more masculine energy. I don't think it would ever just be a specific type, but it would be more so just someone more masculine.
So people who are kind of less like him.
Yes, ma'am.
But at the end of the day, he likes men who like men.
Yes, ma'am.
On cross-examination, defense counsel asked about hooking up with people. He was talking, hooking up with all these people. And you started saying he didn't just hook up with random people. What's your understanding of the people back in 2022 that Jay Lee was hooking up with?
As I mentioned earlier, Jay Lee is very protective of himself, so he would make sure that he knew them a little bit to some degree. He would not be the type of person to just get on and see somebody online and message him to hang out.
So he wasn't having random hookups. You also said on cross-examination that he was well recognized in the LGBTQ community. Would that be fair in Oxford?
Yes, ma'am.
So it was well known that he was a man, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And is it normal if someone is trying to hide their sexuality, to try to protect them?
And also, you can go into that.
I didn't understand the question.
I'll rephrase, Your Honor.
Okay, you can rephrase it for you, whichever one you want to do. I didn't get it.
Let me rephrase. In the LGBTQ community, is it normal or abnormal, you tell me, to not expose or out someone who's on the down low?
I mean, it's more sort of like of a courteous type of thing. Obviously, someone wouldn't want to be outed, so why would someone else out somebody else? But yes, ma'am.
You wouldn't want someone to do that to you.
Correct.
Brief indulgence. Your Honor, no further questions.
This could be finally excused.
Yes, Your Honor.
You're free to go to the interview, go and stay, whichever one you want to do, okay? You can turn the audience or go home or whatever you like, okay?
All right, thank you.
All right, here's about an hour, we on break, we on how? What? Break. All right, let's get a few break, because let's take a look, as quick as you can. Have a with you, please.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can you tell the jury who you are?
My name is Khalid Beers.
And what do you do?
I'm an X-ray tech.
X-ray tech?
Correct.
You currently employed?
Yes, sir.
Whereabouts?
I work in Atlanta at Northside Hospital.
Okay, that's in Atlanta, Georgia?
Correct.
How long have you been there?
I've been there for about a year now.
Okay. How old are you?
Say that again.
How old are you?
I'm 29.
Okay. Where did you have to go to school to become an X-ray tech?
Yes.
What did you have to do in order to get a job as an X-ray tech?
Well, I went to a radiology program at Mississippi Delta Community College in Moorhead, Mississippi. And it's just a 2-year program. You do clinicals and you do classroom work.
Got a degree,
Yes, sir.
did clinical work, and then got a job in Atlanta.
Right.
Are you living in Atlanta right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you've been there about a year and a half?
Right.
Now, back in 2022, where were you living?
I was living here in Oxford, Mississippi.
All right, what were you doing here?
I was an X-ray tech at Baptist Memorial Hospital.
Okay. The main hospital here?
Yes,
working
sir.
As an X-ray tech. How long did you work there?
I worked there since 2020. I started off as a student intern, summer of 2020.
All right. And you're 27 years old?
I'm 29 now.
29 now.
Yeah. So I worked at Baptist Memorial about 2 years before I left.
So in 2022, you were how old?
27.
Okay. Now, do you know Jay Lee?
Yes, sir.
How do you know Jay Lee?
Jay was a friend of mine. I met him in the park.
When did you meet Jay Lee?
I met Jay in the summer of 2022, around May.
All right. So you went to the park in May, and can you tell the jury about how you met Jay Lee?
I was there feeding the ducks, and Jay happened to be walking in the park with his dog Lexi, and Jay was real friendly, so he just kind of like approached me, and he was like, "I like your earrings," and I was just like, "Oh, thank you." And we just kind of struck up a conversation, started talking to each other. I remember it was hot, so we decided to walk over to like the park benches where it was shaded. We continued chatting, getting to know each other, and we exchanged information. And we said we should hang out sometime.
From that moment that you met Jay Lee, how would you describe how often y'all communicated with one another?
We talked to each other about every other day.
Okay. And how would y'all communicate with each other?
We communicated with each other through Snapchat.
All right. And for some people that don't know how that app works, how can you communicate with somebody, the different ways that you can communicate with someone if you're both friends on Snapchat?
Okay, so Snapchat, basically what it is, you send people pictures with messages on them, they open them up, and you can send pictures back with messages on them. You also can directly message them, so it's just like an open chat, kind of like an iPhone message. There's a text thread there. You can do video calls, things of that such.
Okay. Would you use all different kinds of methods to communicate with Jay Lee?
Yes.
Through the messaging, through voice calls?
Yes, sir.
As well as taking photographs or video?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, from May until July, how would you describe the progress or the nature of your relationship? You know, you just meet him in May, but by the time you get to July 8th, how would you describe to the jury that relationship?
It was a pretty good relationship. I thought it was a genuine relationship. I thought it was nice to make a genuine gay friend. So that was nice. And yeah.
Now, are you part of the LGBT community?
Yes, I am a gay man.
Okay. Now, how would you describe Jay Lee? Would he be a part of that LGBTQ community as well?
Yes.
Okay. Now, in the early morning hours, well, let me back up. If you could describe to the jury what your work schedule was and around the time of July of 2022.
Okay, so I work a 7-on, 7-off rotation. I go to work 7 days a week, and I'm off 7 days a week. And I would work from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m.
The night shift?
Yes, sir, the night shift.
All right. Now, just briefly describe what your duties are as an X-ray tech at Baptist Hospital.
All right, so like I said, I just shoot X-rays. If you come in, you have a call for cold, we shoot a chest X-ray. If you're in a motor vehicle crash and you break a leg, I'm shooting pictures of your leg. If you get a gunshot wound, you know, so it's just diagnostic imaging.
Okay. So on July the 8th, early morning hours, were you actually working a shift at Baptist Memorial Hospital?
I was.
Okay, and that would have started at 7 p.m. and would have carried on until 7 a.m. that next morning.
Correct.
All right. So 7 p.m. on July the 7th to 7 a.m. on July the 8th.
Correct.
All right. During that time, did you ever get a break?
Yeah, I mean.
Or let me ask, did you receive any messages that night?
Me and Jay were texting the whole entire night.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And now, there was a time period when you got a text from him that you didn't see it until later. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we were texting up until probably about 1 a.m.
Okay.
And then it stopped. And then I received another text message from him at 5:21 in the morning.
Okay.
And it just said I'm bored.
Yeah. All right. Did you see that as soon as that text came through?
So the way Snapchat works, you just get a notification. It says, hey, Jay has sent you a message, but you have to actually open it up to see what it says. I saw it when he sent it to me, but I was working.
Right.
So I do morning portables at 5:30 in the morning.
What does that mean?
Okay. Morning portables, you know, you get a list of people every day who need chest x-rays, who just had surgery per se, and just need to be checked up on daily. So I had my list of chest x-rays. I said, hey, this will take me about 30 minutes to do. At 5:30, I'm gonna run up and do it, and I'll be back down when I get done. And when I'm finished, I'll reach back out to them.
Okay.
So that's what I did.
All right. So what happened after that?
I decided to call him. I video chatted him. And when I video chatted him, I noticed that he was up and he was on the go.
You noticed what?
He was up.
Okay. What does that mean?
Well, for me, I'm like, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. I expected him to be in bed maybe.
Right.
But like I said, it was daylight. I could see it was bright out. I could see that he like wasn't at home in bed.
All right. Did you make any other observations about what he was doing?
It was like he was leaving his house.
Okay. How do you know that?
Like I said, the phone was pointed up and I could see like a hallway to like the outdoors. And I asked him, I was like, where are you going? He told me he was going to be grown.
I don't think that's here. The response may be hearsay.
Can we approach him?
Okay.
All right, I turned it back down. How is that hearsay if it's direct? Well, I guess it is.
I make a tough call for a minute. Someone has to come step into the jury room and let me listen to these arguments.
No problem, Sheree. I don't know how that's hearsay though. If it's his direct knowledge. Maybe I just don't understand the hearsay.
Right,
It's 30.
The witness had stated that he asked Mr. J. Lee, where are you at? At that time, there was objection, I assume, in anticipation of what the answer that question was going to be anyway. I assume that he's going to say J. Lee responded in some manner. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's what you're objecting to.
And basically, if the court would allow, the state would proffer that
Tell me what the answer to that question would have been.
Jay Lee is basically going to say to Mr. Fears that he's on his way to meet somebody, that he got in an argument before, but he's going back because he's expecting some benefit, a sexual benefit.
And the defense contends that's hearsay. Is it offered for the truth of the matter, sir?
It is not.
What's it offered for then?
I'm going to let Glenn argue this part.
All right. Well, if it is, if it's either is or is not offered for the truth of the matter, sir,
Way it would not be is because
I'm gonna let Glenn, I'm gonna let one of you argue. One of you pick your best horse to ride. Go ahead.
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, well, our argument is twofold. We're offering it for the truth of the matter that he was going to go somewhere. The hearsay exception for it is the then and there existing mental state or condition. Your Honor, I actually have a case cite for the court. It is Holloman v. State, 178 Southern 3rd 689.
If you would give me just a second to get my able assistant, I want to actually read the case instead. Not that I don't take y'all word for what you say, but I like to read them myself. Did you get that cite book?
I can give the court an overview while you're waiting for it.
Go ahead, please.
In that case, Holloman was charged with having killed his wife. Her friend, his wife's name was Laura, and Laura spoke to, Katie, her friend, before leaving. She told Katie that she was leaving him, that she wanted a divorce, and that she was taking her clothes from the closet, packing them up and leaving. It was within the court's discretion, of course, in the admissibility, but the argument was that it was a statement of the declarant's then existing state of mind, emotion, sensation, or physical condition, such as intent, plan, motive, design, mental feeling, or pain. And it did not include memory or belief to prove the fact remembered. It was just what she was going to do. And it's related to her execution or identification of the declarant's will. Mr. Fears is here to testify as to what Jay Lee was telling of what his intent was, why his intent was that. It is similar to the statements made by Holloman's wife to her friend regarding what she intended to do, which is that she was going to leave him and she was going to pack up her clothes and that she wanted a divorce. In that case, it was allowed to come in. It was affirmed by the court. And Your Honor probably has the case by now.
Let me, can you direct me to a head note or something to the witness?
Yes, it's actually
head note number 10, there's spontaneous statement.
head note 6. The paragraph before that has section 3. So whether the trial court erroneously admitted hearsay statements by the victim.
Come on with the case law.
Y'all give me just a second. I understand the state's argument that y'all contend this is, y'all state contends while this is hearsay, that this is an exception to the hearsay rule.
Yes, Your Honor. It is also, I would further argue that it is, the detective will later testifies, they receive this information, it is going to come into how, when the detective testifies, it's about how they're proceeded in their investigation. And then later on, I mean, the defendant admits that he invited him over. So it's, you know, even if it was ruled not a hearsay exception, Your Honor, it, although we do believe it to be one, it would be harmless because the same information is coming.
I'll hear from the defense. Anybody want to can argue? No.
Case that they cited is making reference to a statement made in the presence of a witness that observed the event occur as to some type of assault. That's not the case here. Also, what they're telling the court is that they anticipate that if you let it in now, it would be harmless error because it's going to come in later. You know, under that particular case law, it doesn't satisfy the exception as a present sense impression. They're having conversations about conduct that may or may not occur between the declarant and someone else. Case they've cited is certainly not on point.
I'm going to take just a minute and read the case in its entirety anyway.
Now, in that particular case,
I'm listening. Go ahead.
the witness observed the activity between the alleged victim and the defendant, and as a result of that, the statement, she packing up, going to divorce the individual courtroom because she had observed something in that statement was made during the course of that particular event, and the statement made after that, there was connection between the two. It's clearly not here in this case.
Let me just leave one more second. Like,
All right, come on, we're gonna speed it up.
Rules of evidence. A statement of declarant's then existing state of mind, emotion, sensation, physical condition, such as intent, plan, motive, design, mental feelings, pain, and bodily health. If the testimony is, I'd ask the witness to step out for a minute because I don't want what the testimony is going to be, and I don't want to be giving.
So, I mean, basically, they're arguing over hearsay rules.
Force on what to say.
We're gonna skip through.
Right, as it relates to, as to the extent that the statement by Jay Lee to this witness is to what his plan was, I will allow it to be introduced. Nothing further than that. Nothing further than what his plan was. And I don't know what the statement is, but if it's something more than what he planned to do, it'll be excluded. As to what he planned to do, it'll be missed. Is that clear as mud? And if somebody wants to give me a proffer of what that statement is anticipated to be, I'll tell you what portion of it is admissible and what portion of it is not admissible.
As he testified, he was basically on like a FaceTime with Jay Lee as he was leaving his apartment. He wasn't at home, and that he will testify that Jay Lee was telling him that he was going where he was going and why he was going there. He was like, "I'm going back to meet this guy I met with earlier. I blocked him and everything because we had a fight earlier," and that's what the statement is going to be.
I'm not going to let the card about that because we had a fight earlier in. He can say that I'm planning on going somewhere, but I'm not going to let him talk about that.
I think that's where we get into not offering it for the truth of the matter asserted.
Y'all carried me pretty far down the hearsay road already. That's far as I'm going. You please do. You can make any proffer proof that you like.
he hears that information. This is on the early morning hours of July the 8th, 5:58. On July the 11th, he has sent a post from social media from OPD asking for information on the whereabouts of Jay Lee. It's that information about the fight and about where he was going that resulted in this witness on his own contacting law enforcement to provide them that information. Whether it's true or not, doesn't matter. Because of the nature of the information, it was important that he tell law enforcement.
We'll cross that bridge when we get to those witnesses. But after this witnesses, I'm going to let him testify as to what Jay Lee's plan was. The plan is I'm going to see, I'm going to see some guy, basically. But I'm not going to, I don't think that the reasoning behind the plan is not the same as the plan anyway. And that's court ruling. You can ask the defendant what Jay Lee told him about where he was planning to go, and what he was planning to do, as to his motivation as to why he made that plan, or as to why he was going where he was going. I'm going to include that testimony. That's not part of the plan. That's the basis behind the plan. All right. And if you need to discuss that with your attorney with your witness before you get back before the jury, I'll let you do that. So we'll get more findings.
All right, we're
The
gonna
purpose of this witness is to address the witness on some limitations, or y'all want to try to do that?
I've spoken to Mr. Fears about the court's ruling with respect to not saying anything in the presence of the jury about Jay Lee saying that they've been into a fight earlier. Is that correct, Mr. Fears? Okay.
All right. All right, check the jury back in. All right, everybody good on the jury? All right, you may proceed with questioning this man.
Thank you, Honor. Before we took a break, we were talking about you noticing on your phone, I believe it was 5:21, that you had gotten a message from Jay Lee. 5:21 a.m.
Yes, sir. 5:21 a.m. He texted me. He said, "I'm bored."
Okay. All right. And then you called him.
5:58. I called him.
5:58.
5:58.
And you could tell he was going somewhere.
Yes.
Did you hear him get in his car?
Yes.
Did you know what kind of car he had?
He had a black Ford car with his name on his head.
Jay Lee on the back.
Yeah.
Any other noticeable features about the car?
No, it had a big stripe on the front of it.
Okay. All right. And could you hear the car in the background?
Yes.
All right. And what was said in that conversation with Jay Lee?
He was just telling me about how he had seen someone earlier, and he was going to see the person who had seen it earlier. And he described the things that they did. He also told me that
Yes. What happened after that?
okay,
What else did he say?
he said
What his plans were? In that conversation, did he tell you what his plans were?
he said he was going to get oral sex, receive oral sex.
Thank you, Hon. Was it your understanding that he was going to meet somebody for that oral sex?
Correct.
All right. What if, were you concerned about that?
I mean, yeah,
All right. Why were you concerned?
because of what he previously told me.
Okay. Well, did you know enough about Jay Lee in the LGBT community to know that he was out in the open?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you know anything about his preferences?
Yeah, he communicated with me what he liked.
Okay.
He told me what he also attracted, though.
And did he look up to you in some way?
I would say so, yeah. We were,
And why is that?
because I was a 27-year-old man. I mean, I'm not new to this. I've been around the block. I know how it works. I know how it goes.
All right. And did you give him any advice about that?
Yeah, I would tell him that like a down-low man or a man who isn't comfortable with their sexuality is not someone you want to be out here hooking up with. I was like, because, if
What did you tell him?
I told him, I said they would kill you before their dirty little secret gets exposed.
Now, how would you describe Jay Lee, his personality?
Well, first of all, Jay was very brave. You know what I'm saying? He was very fun, friendly. He loved to dance, vibrant, bright.
And when you saw him, was he typically always put together fashionably? So what about his relationship with his dog?
He didn't go anywhere without her.
Didn't go anywhere without Lexi. All right. And when you were talking to Jay Lee at 5:58 a.m., how did he sound then? Did he sound depressed or
No.
concerned about anything?
No.
Did he sound more like the Jay Lee that you're used to? Vibrant,
Yes.
excited?
He sounded like he was going to go have some fun.
Okay. Of course, indulgence.
Baby, this case here.
All right. Did you know Jay Lee to use social media?
Yes.
Did you pay attention to what he posted?
Yes.
All right. And then after July the 8th, well, let me ask you this. Did you know him to post often and regularly?
Jay would post every day on his story.
And then after your last conversation with him, did you ever see him post anything again?
I did not.
All right. Now, did he ever try to contact you again?
After?
After?
No.
Did you ever try to contact him?
Yeah, I reached out to him and I said, hey, friend. And it never got opened. The message was never opened.
Message was never opened. All right. Then what happened on July the 11th of 2022?
July the 11th. Okay. I woke up, getting ready to go to my shift. I got ready. And before I'm leaving out the door, I'm checking my phone, looking at my messages. And someone messaged me saying, hey, I see that you've been hanging out with Jay a lot. He's missing. Have you seen him? Okay. So that happened. And once I got to work, I reached out to the number that was on the UPD, the campus police.
Did they send you the post from University Police Department sending out a request for information?
Yeah.
So you had that post,
Mm-hmm.
you called that number.
Right.
All right. And what happened after that?
I worked my normal regular shift. 2 police officers, I'm assuming, came to my job later on that night and interviewed me.
Okay. So you reached out to law enforcement to
Yeah.
tell them what you knew. To see, did you know whether that was going to be helpful or not?
Well, I mean, I knew it would because I knew what kind of conversation we had.
Right. Okay. So when you found out Jay Lee was missing, it made, in your mind, that conversation even more important.
Absolutely.
Okay. Court's indulgence. Into the witness room.
Good morning, Mr. Fears. How you doing today?
I'm well.
I missed it. I just wondered, you work at Baptist. What are your job responsibilities? I just wanted it on my notes. What do you do out there?
I was an X-ray tech at the time.
Are you still doing that now?
I'm still an X-ray tech today,
But not at Baptist.
but not at Baptist.
Sound like you work a lot of hours,
Yeah, I
Okay.
work 40 hours a week.
12 on, 12 off, and that's a full-time job you had there, right?
Right.
How long had you been working there?
Been working there since 2020.
Okay. And so when you testified earlier that you met Jay Lee in the park, when was that? How long had you known Jay Lee prior to July the 8th of 2022?
I met him in the park in May.
Like, so y'all known each other, became pretty instant friends, pretty tight at that particular time.
We were building a friendship. We were getting to know each other.
Okay. Were y'all involved in any type of relationship at all?
We were friends.
Okay, just friends, no other type of relationship. Okay. Would it be a fair statement, Mr. Fears, to say that that during the course of your becoming friends with Mr. Lee, that he used different platforms to establish hookups with basically random hookups?
Would it be fair?
Yeah. To say that.
I don't understand the question.
Did he use as well as, I mean, you had, according to what I understand during the course of the investigation, my understanding is that Jay Lee and yourself, not necessarily together, used an app called Jacked.
Okay.
And that Jacked is an app for the purpose of hookups, right?
It can be used for a lot of things. It can be used for hookups, dating, chatting, networking.
But for purposes of Jay Lee's use of Jacked, and not necessarily yours all the time, but it was used for hookups for Jay Lee, as you understand it?
I'm not quite sure.
Okay, but you remember giving a statement at the time that you were interviewed, that you referenced to on direct examination, that that jacked up is something that being you and Jay Lee used to hook up?
Okay, so the guy on the stand is Jay Lee's friend. He met him in May of 2022. He's older than Jay Lee, and they just kind of talk. He's one of the last people to speak to him before he became missing. The guy who was accused of killing Jay Lee is Sheldon Timothy Harrington. And he is, well, we can't see him in this view, but the guy standing up at the podium right now is his defense attorney. So that's the defense, and then you've got the two people coming back right now, the woman and the guy.
I'll rephrase the question and try to do it all at one time. If that's okay. Mr. Fears, not your question. The app Jack, did you use it, and did you have knowledge that Jay Lee used it for the purpose of hooking up with other people?
I think you could only assume that. Jay never said, hey, I'm on this app doing this.
I'd like to have this part for identification.
All right, goes another witness impeachment.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Fears, no, been a long time. But I want you to, I'm going to point on this particular document. It's identified as Defense Exhibit D2. And just read it. I'm going to run my pen across it so we don't go through the whole document. Tell me whether or not you recall providing this information during the course of the interview that we referenced. You've had an opportunity to look at the identified.
One shade, one of these days. So I did 150 years old, but we had to get y'all shade for the window. Like, God, it sounded like that.
Gotcha.
As far as that particular statement, you recall making that statement to the detectives pertaining to the Jack-Up app that you told them there was an app that you and Jay Lee used for the purposes of hooking up with other males in the local area.
The detectives asked me what Jack was because they didn't know what it was. So I described to them what Jack was, what it could be used for. That hooking up with people is what you can use that for. Most one thing you can use that for.
But as far as the portion of it in this particular statement, I'm not going into the rest of it, but for
It's a recorded interview, and that it's not phrased the same way in the recorded.
no, I thought we were going to have talking objections here.
If there is a, I'm going to let you ask this last question. Did you? I think you'd already answered the question anyway, but I'm going to ask the question one more time.
You recall giving, you admit or deny that you gave that particular statement to the law enforcement?
What particular statement? What did you just show?
Whether or not that app, that y'all use that app for hookups.
That we use it for hookups?
Yes, you deny that statement.
I still don't understand the question.
The question is, do you admit or deny that what's in this officer's report pertaining to what they took down in this report is in your interview, at some point in time, you admit or deny that you told them that Jack was a app that y'all used to hook up with men in the local area?
I admit to telling them what Jack was, what you could use it for, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
You also are familiar with the fact that further down during the interview, you also identified not only Jack as an app that Jay Lee used, but BLK and Grindr in order to have hookups.
I don't know what BLK is. I never said that.
Show you again whether or not you recall this statement in this officer's report, okay?
You have objection, go ahead, Vic.
Your Honor, the interview, the submission.
Yeah, come on. I will say this, if there is a
Yeah, I got it sped up. So because we're watching day 1 and they're in day 2 right now, so we're watching it sped up, Karen. All right, they're at the bench. Let's see if we can get past the bench conference. Okay, there goes the defendant. I know people were asking about the defendant. There he goes. Very quick view of him, but that's the defendant.
Is you made representations to the officer about the app Jacked, Grinder, says in here BLK, but you deny making any reference to BLK. Okay, you know what Grinder is?
I know what Jacked is and I know what Grinder is.
What about, okay, and what, would you agree with me that those apps are apps that Jay Lee used, and one of which apparently you used for the purpose of hooking up with other men in the local area?
Okay.
Is that, let me Spears. Yes or no? You can explain yourself to the extent you need an explanation. Is that yes or no? Use those apps, correct, to hook up with men in the local area.
You just asking me if Jay Lee and I.
Not together, that you had knowledge that Jay Lee used these apps and knowledge that you used at least the Jack app to hook up with men in the local area.
No, I did not have knowledge that Jay Lee was using the apps to hook up with anybody.
Okay, so the statement in Defense Exhibit 2, the lead explained to us that Jay Lee used apps such as Jack, BLK, and Grinder in order to have hookups. That's wrong in this report.
Jay never told me that he was hooking up with people on these apps. We never had that conversation.
The lead explained to us that the Jack app, what it is, and showed us how it works. You showed him how it works.
Right.
He explained that Jack, he did that. That part of the statement is correct, right? Okay. The lead explained that the Jack app is something that he and Jay Lee used to hook up with other males. That's incorrect.
Like I said, Jay never told me. Like I said, we were building a friendship.
Sure, I understand that.
And you don't just come out and be like, hey, this is what I'm doing, da, da, da. No. So I've never heard Jay from his mouth say that, hey, I'm on these apps doing this. You know, what I do is something totally different, but he didn't tell me that. No.
Okay. And so how often would you and Jay Lee talk? Every day, every other day?
Me and Jay would talk about one every other day. Yeah.
All right. And it's a fair statement, is it not, that you were familiar, you had conversations personally amongst yourself through Snapchat and through other, whether it be Instagram, things of that nature between your address and his address? Fair statement, your account, right?
We communicated on Snapchat.
All right. And your account at that time was KHAALIDDY. That's you, right?
Right.
All right. And it's a fair statement, is it not, that you and Jay Lee had conversations about what he liked to do sexually and what you like to do sexually through the course of those conversations?
That's not good to say.
You never had those conversations about sexual stuff or activities or
We had conversations.
preferences or anything like that?
We had conversations about what guys were we into. I never asked him about who he was having sex with.
Understand that. I'm not necessarily talking about preferences. I'm talking about activity within whatever he may be doing with sexual partners, what you may like, what he may like, things of that nature. You had those conversations through your Snapchat and Instagram conversations with him, right?
We had conversations through Snapchat.
Okay. And his account, one of them was Sucker for Jay. That was one of his that you would send messages to and he would respond. You're familiar with that account? Oh, that handle, whatever you want to call it. I'm not very tech savvy, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Sucker for Jay was how you conversed with him and sent messages during this time frame.
Is that what his Snapchat name was?
I don't know, I'm asking you, what Snapchat did you use with him as far as in June or July 2022?
Well, I'm not sure what his username handle is, but the way his name pops up in my Snapchat, it says J. It has like a little heart emoji.
One of those, Sucker for Jay, right?
I'm not sure.
Well, it's been provided in the discovery response as a result of a search warrant that
Witness doesn't know what the attempt was.
so I want to hand you and mark this for identification.
Hey, yeah, I'm feeling better today. I'm up today.
P3.
Chad, you got his mug shot. Yes, y'all. The defendant is out on bond. I mean, at the end of the day, he told y'all, he explained what the apps was, and if the apps was on his phone, like, I think that's sufficient. Why we still trying to hit this horse, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they gonna have him up. They take him out. He on the stand for the rest of the day, baby. What other information do he got? Hey, what is the defendant actually accused of doing? He's accused of unaliving Jay Lee, whose body has not been found. He was declared deceased at the request of his parents. And this is one of the last people to have spoken to him since he's gone.
You may.
What's the mark of identification is D3 ID, and it appears that I'm not going to read all this, I promise you, but for purposes of identifying, that's your account, how you go by KAJLIDDY on June 6th, correct?
Correct.
And you look at this on here, Sucker for Jay, conversations that appeared that you had with Jay, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Look at it for just a minute and just look through it and tell me whether or not you have any dispute. If that appears to be conversations that y'all had, correct?
Correct.
So it appears throughout this conversation, I don't go into the details, but it appears that y'all are having some conversations about sexual conduct, things of that nature. I want to direct your attention to the third page, if you don't mind.
Let the state see, if you got a copy of that other document, let him have a copy of the document.
And Morgan, that's the defendant, and he was also alleged to have searched international flights and was seen leaving his parents' house with a wheelbarrow and a shovel. He's also on camera, allegedly running away from Jay's car. Yeah, but there really isn't any physical evidence. Everything is circumstantial. So we also heard details that his family actually has money, and yeah, he's out on bond.
Form anything you don't know about the case, continue on. I'm going to ask that the, what's the party preference on whether the witness stays on stand during this? Y'all come to order. Do the parties have any preference whether the witness remains in the witness stand during our arguments or whether the witness? I'm going to ask you to go back to the witness stand, Ms. Spears. We'll not question testimony. We'll call you when we need to, okay? Thank you. All right, Mr. Spears, get out there. I'll let you make your objections anyway.
Just want to yes, Your Honor, my first objection when we started this was as to as to I thought he was going to have it be read because, you know, that would be, this is not a report he made coming into evidence without being authenticated. My second objection is that it is hearsay. In looking at this document, he said he identifies it as a conversation, but before he didn't remember it, he's looking at it. There's no top that says this is the sender and this is the receiver. There's no, so I don't know which message goes to which, because this wouldn't even be the proper witness to bring this in under. Secondly, there's not a hearsay exception that this would fit. We're talking about.
I'm gonna do one of these objections at a time. One at a time anyway. We'll get to hearsay if we get to hearsay, okay? But tell me your first objection anyway.
My first objection was having him read anything on here into evidence. If he reads it out loud, especially he has
until such time as something is authenticated to the satisfaction of the court, we're not going to have any reading to the jury. By looking at the document, I don't know who is the giver and who the receiver. The witness may know who the giver and the receiver is. If this witness is able to testify that yes, I had that conversation with Jay Lee, I was the giver or I was the receiver, and it's authenticated, then we'll move we'll move on into any hearsay objection. If the witness can't do that, then we won't get as far as the hearsay objection. But if you want to take the hearsay objection up at this time, rather than ping pong in the jury, you can make your arguments as to why you feel this is hearsay. I'll give the defense an opportunity to say, for purpose of this argument and purpose of this argument only, I'm going to assume that the defense can authenticate it. Don't know that they can, but rather than ping pong in the jury, I'm going to work on the assumption that they've gotten past the authentication portion and move on into the hearsay objection. Go ahead.
Yes, Your Honor. My second objection was that it is hearsay without an exception. If you are able to identify who said what, or if this witness is, I would say, Your Honor, that there is no exception. He's just talking about, like he said, he even described it in his question, things that they say they like to do. It's not a present sense impression. They're not doing it in the moment. It's not a then existing mental state. It's not a statement for medical purposes. There's no exception as to if it's being offered for the truth. If it's being offered that this is what Jay Lee liked, then Jay Lee's not here. That's a hearsay, Your Honor, without any exception.
I'll let you take up each argument first. Take up the argument what you feel has to be done to authenticate, and whether you have authenticated, whether you can authenticate, and if so, we'll move to hearsay objection.
Your Honor, the witness clearly, first of all, I was going to ask a few more questions pertaining to the content, whether or not he identified conversations on there, whether or not they occurred. He already answered that question to the extent he could identify the conversations.
I'm going to give you an opportunity to, won't you go ahead and take up your answer to response to the hearsay with the assumption for purposes of argument that you can get by the authentication portion of it anyway.
First of all, we're not a factual assertion. It's a conversation between the two. It's not trying to establish any fact, only that they had that conversation between the two of them. We're not establishing any fact other than the fact that they had that conversation. I don't think it's hearsay in the first place. We're not establishing any fact that anything occurred, only that they had that conversation. Then the court has to turn to whether or not it's relevant. Obviously, from the open statements, they're going to try to introduce some documentation that there was a conversation about some strangulation or something along those lines during the course of their presentation. And also, they basically having conversations about sexual preferences and things consistent with what the state proposes our client said or did during the course of some other evidence that hasn't been introduced.
All right. So the reason why it was said that his parents have money was to just say that the man bonded out. It has absolutely nothing to do with his parents having money converted into charges and indictments. His charges were brought about due to the circumstantial evidence that has been presented to the grand jury. Like they decided that if they had enough to do it. So it isn't really, no, it isn't really that because he has money, like it had nothing to do with that. It was just, I was just saying like somebody in the chat has some type of inside knowledge. And so we were just repeating like, what was said. It wasn't anything. They've got circumstantial evidence as far as like him being on camera, leaving the victim's car. They've got searches on his phone. So there's some evidence that they have. It isn't just, oh, we don't have a body, we think you did it. So I just wanted to clear it up just in case you came in a little bit late. Well, I don't know. This only day one, y'all. So we got to get through it. They only on day two. We're trying to catch up. So just stay tuned.
This time, which I assume that the state's going to try to introduce. Stuff about the choking, Your Honor, it is conditionally relevant, Your Honor, at this point in time, based on what I understand and what they presented in opening statements as to our client's statement on the 558 Google search. Ask him about those particular things. These conversations they're having between each other.
I'm going to do this. I'm going to, is there anybody that can tell us with any degree of certainty who said what on those exchanges?
The phone extractor got the Snapchat return, which I think is Douglas, Ryan Major. There's several detectives that could.
I'm going to do this. I'm going to get, without relaying anything to getting off into any specifics, I'm going to give you an opportunity to ask this witness who this conversation is between, and can he identify?
He's already answered that question, Your Honor.
I think so. He says that, but then who said what?
It's correct.
Once he decided who said what, if it's he says the other way that or I want to answer that question as to who said what and what was said, and then I'll decide about the hearsay at that point. All right?
Thank you.
Can I just make a final record on that point?
All right, go ahead.
Just to say that in opposing counsel's response, he did not cite a single exception to the hearsay rule. He only said that it's relevant.
He said it was not. He said it was not offered for proof of the matter asserted. That's what he said. And I'm going to see what's said, and then I'll make a decision whether it's offered for proof of the matter asserted or not. I did not hear any exception to the hearsay rule cited. I did hear him offer that it was not offered for proof of the matter asserted. I'll make a decision on that after I know a little more. All right, bring the witness back in. Don't ask the witness anything. Read anything specific out loud. Come back around, Mr. Fears. Have a seat there. We're bouncing you around like a basketball today here and there. I appreciate you bearing with us, okay? All right, show the jury back in.
Let me see if I can get us sped up to the questioning.
I approach, Your Honor.
Hey, remember court instruction on how to conduct the interview.
I asked you to identify conversation or this document D3, and I think you had responded that the lady KHALIDDY, that's your conversation, your chat to Sucker for J, which is Jay Lee, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So once you review, so you're the originator of the conversation, and he's the recipient of the conversation on the first level, and then after when he responds to you, he'd be on the left side of the page, correct? Okay.
Who is the recipient? Who is the?
This is, you're sending a chat message here.
Rephrase that. Just ask if he can identify who is the recipient and who is the sender.
Go back and forth, Your Honor. On the left side is the sender in the message. On the right side is the recipient, correct?
Let him ask us. Let him review the.
Review the document. Tell me who the sender is.
There you go.
On these two columns, the question is, who's the sender? On this side?
Just a second. I'm trying to decide who is talking in the conversation. Okay, I got it.
Okay, so tell me, the left side of the column I've identified, third row over, is that sender or recipient?
Sender.
Okay, right side is recipient, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so you can identify these conversations. You've looked at the conversations that you've had with Jay Lee through y'all's chat, correct? Okay. Now, I want to direct your attention to the third page of this document, if you don't mind. You look at that, please. You see at the bottom of the page, beginning right here where I marked although, you see that on there? Third page. Third line. Again, look on this line right here of the document.
Which page is it again?
I think it's the first page. On this particular document, it's the second page, I'm sorry. On this particular line where it begins, I'm a lover, not a fighter, who is the sender on that? Don't answer what it says at this time. Tell me who
I
the
think you
sender
just said what it said. That's the,
This conversation right here on D3.
Okay.
Who is the sender?
Jay.
Okay, and the recipient?
Me.
All right. At this time, Your Honor, I'd like to have D3 introduced to me. Evidence.
I wasn't able to see.
Let's say everybody talk about what we talked about anyway.
Yep. So the victim is like, he's basically well known, lovable. He talks to his parents every day. He was in college. He was getting his master's degree. He had an internship, and one day he just disappeared. And he had a dog he used to spoil, and he just disappeared. And so his parents had him deemed as deceased. And so we're here. But it's only day one. This is day one anyway. Day two is airing right now.
In its entirety be introduced.
I know.
We were talking earlier about offer for the truth of the matter asserted or not offer for the truth of the matter asserted. Our court attention was directed to one particular item, not D3 in its entirety.
That's correct, Your Honor. I will take all the pages out of the page reference.
I don't think so, Miss Renee. They have some circumstantial evidence against the defendant. They actually have him running away from the deceased's car or the victim's car. And we haven't seen all the evidence. This is I don't think that it has any
portion of D3 you
collected insurance. I think the state's theory is that the victim was a part of the LGBTQ community, hooked up with somebody who was on the down low. Things went wrong, and then he came up missing. And some of the evidence that we've heard about is the defendant having searched how long does it take to strangle someone, international flights, and then again videos of him leaving the car of the victim, running away from it, as well as leaving his parents' house with a shovel and a wheelbarrow. So they got some circumstantial stuff, but they do not have a body. So I hope that helps. Right now, his friend is testifying, and he was like the person that he talked to the morning that he went missing. I mean, they going back and forth about these stuff. Oh yeah, and he went and brought duct tape at Walmart.
As to the highlighted area, D3 is the exhibit, but I'm gonna have you go over the portion so we can run through this a lot faster. The highlighted areas that are in D3 are marked as to this particular page, where the top of it starts with Khalidi and Sucker J, and at the top of it, it says, for purpose of the record, I like a nigga. Appears to be that, okay? So that's where we're starting as far as that particular, what it says right there. So as to going down to line 4, where it says Sucker 4J and Khalidi, That's Sucker J, and that's Cleety. We've already identified the fact that sender, recipient, Suckers 4J is J, and Cleety is Ladidi is you. What was said? What did Sucker J say to you in that conversation?
It says, I feel like you'd be into BDSM.
Okay. And that was the extent of that particular line's conversation. What was said next by Sucker J to you, to J to you?
During sex.
Okay. And what was said, continuation of that particular conversation, what else was said?
Where you want me to stop?
Right now, the next line.
Okay. Jay says, LOL, I enjoy a little, looks like he wants to say mutual aggression.
Okay. Mutual aggression. All right. The next line is what? Who said what? From who to whom? The next line.
The next line would be, where are we at?
Right here.
Okay, that would be me to him.
Okay. And that you just sent something that's some
That'd be like emojis, yeah.
emojis. All right. And after that, Sucker Jay sent, what happened next?
I think I corrected his typo. I said mutual. Wait. He said mutual. Is that correct?
You say correct on the next line. All right. And then what did Sucker for Jay say to you?
He says, ooh, you like to choke and to be choked?
And your response was?
Heavy on it.
Okay. And what does that mean to you?
What does that mean to me?
Yeah, heavy on it.
Heavy on it. Heavy on it is a music label that my favorite rapper started. She started her own record label, and it's called Heavy on It.
Okay. Okay, so that's what you said to him, heavy on that.
Yeah.
And then you said back to him, do you have any kinks, LOL, right?
Correct.
And Sucker for Jay said you, what was that response?
He says aggressive, and also he says aggressive, and he also likes to get put in his place.
Okay, let's go to the next marked location on this particular page. As to what's marked right here, what did Jay leave on page that start up at the top in this particular exhibit? It says, ooh, I'm sorry, I'd bring you some if I weren't. Pages aren't identified, so I have to identify what's at the top of the page. Jay, at this location right here, I've identified to you. What did he say to you? Yes. Right. 1429.
Nervous.
I'm just going. We're in the second orange area, John. I'm gonna get all. This is the part we're gonna identify. I'm going to identify all the other conversations. And we'll get to the part that we're going to redact that.
I had
Okay, I'll just lay the credit.
There were two lines there that the court
Okay.
could not identify. They were together.
Right.
There was spot between them as to whether or not who was the giver and who was the recipient. But generally, when they're all on one line, I can figure it out.
Right here, Mr. Speaker.
Nice. But that's the specific question I got there. Is to one particular line, who was the giver, who was the receiver, because it's not clear to the court.
Right here. As to this conversation right here from Jay to you.
This is where we are.
Right here, top of the page, we talked about earlier, right here. It says sender and receiver.
It's Jay.
All right, and to you, right?
Correct.
That's your reference. Read that out and tell me whether or not what that says.
It says, ooh, you like to choke and to be choked?
And you said heavy on that.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, can I look at that just a second? Let me show you right here what I'm talking about.
I understand. That's that conversation. It's on that part right there.
So
This is a one other. That's it. That's right. Do you have any keys out there? I don't think so. Right. Just identify it.
So what he was identified as my understanding.
So I feel they pretty much stuck on it because the defense wants to paint the victim out to be like this overly promiscuous guy who's into all these different things to, justify right now the search on the defendant's phone about strangulation minutes before the victim arrives to their house.
Where it says Sucker J flee and identify the conversation, who said what, okay?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Where am I stopping?
Start right here down to putting someone in their place.
Okay. So Jay says,
Start right- Okay, go ahead.
Jay says, ooh, you like to choke and to be choked? I said, heavy on it. Then I messaged him back and I said, do you have any kinks? LOL. Jay says, I don't think so. I like to be aggressive and also get put in my place.
Okay, that's a conversation.
And-
That's, the rest of it doesn't matter at this point. We're not addressing that. That's your recollection and what you recall is a conversation that y'all had, and that's reflected in this record.
That's our conversation.
That's the conversation. Thank you.
I think I satisfied myself that who said what. That who said what, and I know, and I apologize for jumping so many hoops, but I can't be assuming things when it's open to interpretation. I will now hear your arguments on why this is or is not hearsay. There's been an objection by the state as to that this is hearsay. I'm going to give the state an opportunity to explain to me why they believe that it is hearsay, and I'll give the defense an opportunity to say why they think it's not hearsay. All right, go ahead, state, whatever you're ready.
Yes, sir. I believe it's hearsay, the line where he says, I don't think so. I like to be aggressive and get put in my place, because there's no exception. It's not a statement of then and there personal being. He's just talking about what he likes. And the argument that it is not the truth of the matter, then what's the purpose? Just to show the conversation, as they stated before, they're relating it back to its relevance. The content is the only thing that's relevant. So obviously you want to use that for the contention that it is true, that Jay is saying, I like to be aggressive. That is what you're using it for. There's no other purpose and there's no exception. So the argument that it is not hearsay bears belief, because if it's not for the truth that Jay likes this sort of thing, what's it for? To embarrass the victim, to shame him? Like, what is the real purpose? And Your Honor, they've never articulated that. They just argued it was relevant. A lot of things are relevant, but does it meet the standard of not being even offered for the truth? And if it is, what is the exception?
Okay, girl. Come through.
I'll listen to you.
First of all, I stated earlier, it's not a factual assertion where we're trying to establish that Jay Lee choked anybody or that anything occurred between these two individuals. No, it's trying to establish that fact. All we're trying to establish is offer this, not for the truth of the matter asserted, that this conversation took place between the two. And it's been established already for these individuals that he said he didn't have any conversations with him about their sexual activity, things of that nature. First of all, rebuts his examination direct, and also is conditionally relevant based on the fact that they've established. I'm going to try to get into.
I know question court minor is relevant. You can move past that.
Right.
But relevant, you can be relevant and still be hearsay.
Right.
I find it's relevant.
Right. But it's offered not to prove that they acted in any way or the proof that anybody choked anybody, but only to lay the purpose of part of the foundation to establish that these individuals had these conversations about potentially sexual deviant activities between these individuals and other individuals, and what Jay Lee's preference was and what other people's preference was. There's other conversations in there consistent with that, but as to this individual, as to what they had conversations about, Your Honor, it's not a factual assert. We're not asserting any fact. We're not trying to establish any fact other than we're trying to say this conversation took place and they had these conversations about what they liked as far as sexual preference.
So he's basically trying to argue credibility.
Conversations like that. So why the details of hearsay? Why would they even say?
We just testified he did or did not have conversations with this.
He already testified when he showed him that they had conversations of a sexual nature. He already earlier testified to that. First he said they didn't, and then when he showed it to him, he said, oh yes, we did. But he didn't, what would be the purpose of, if you're trying to say that we're only introducing it to say that he did have those conversations, he said he had conversations where he talked about things that they like. So why would you need to introduce hearsay?
We're going to take about a 5-minute break, scratch my head and come back to the meeting, okay?
But he said he's gonna take him a break.
Statements that we got there. Ask Mr. Fears did he did or did not make those statements. I'm not going to introduce them into evidence. As substance evidence. I'm going to allow them to be questioned for impeachment purposes. All right. So D3 is not going to be introduced into evidence. I'm going to let you impeach Mr. Fears on those matters.
I think that you're correct that he did say that we didn't talk explicitly about sexual preferences and that kind of just preferences.
Me too, Renee.
In the end. But when confronted with extraneous evidence, he said, yes, we did have that conversation.
That's how it goes.
And this would be more evidence for impeachment purposes. And I'm going to allow him to, I'm going to allow him to impeach the witness about what his previous testimony was. I'm not going to allow it admitted into evidence, but for impeachment purposes only. Y'all understand that? And since the only portion of D3 that I've reviewed for those purposes, that's what I want to limit it to at this time.
Other portions in here, Your Honor.
As to that particular issue,
As to the impeachment aspect, yes, Your Honor.
I'm talking about that as on impeachment on that particular question.
Yes, it's whether or not they had other conversations, but what I planned on doing was based on what we've gone through and how long it's taken, ask the question about other content. You remember other conversations?
If they are for purposes of impeachment, something prior inconsistent statement he's made in his testimony, I'll give you the opportunity. If they're not, I'm not going to let you do it. I'm fine with this hearsay, but it's for impeachment, this impeachment purpose, not introduction into evidence.
Right. As substantive proof.
Not a substitute proof. Y'all, do y'all need a minute for that, Mr. Creekmore? Is that going to relate to this witness, Mr. Creekmore?
No, it doesn't. It relates to the next witness, so I think we should go. It relates to the next witness.
It's 424. There's probably not going to be a next witness today.
Your Honor,
Thank you for the basic. Court's findings.
Mr. Spears, last time we were on the record, I showed you some marked identification states, defense exhibit 3, and pertaining to your previous testimony about J. Lee didn't have conversations about sexual preferences, things of that nature. I'm going to hand you a portion of, and again, this is the exhibit, and these are the portions that I want you to be concentrating on, highlighted part. It won't be highlighted on the exhibit, okay? But if you would, on that particular page, referencing those conversations, starting on the line highlighted, I'll look at that line and agree with me whether or not y'all had these conversations between you and J. Lee on June 13th, Monday, June 13th, and identified these previously, right? This is y'all's conversation, right?
This is our conversation.
All right. You admit or deny, I assume you admit now that you made these conversations. And would you read Sucker for J is J, Lee, correct?
Correct.
And Lee, that's you, right?
Correct.
So if you would start at the highlighted area, which is the same portion of D3, and state, first of all, what Sucker for J, which is J Lee, in that chat said to you, I feel like, anyway, go ahead.
Okay. So he says, I feel like you'd be into BDSM during sex.
What does that mean to you?
BDSM to me?
Okay, do you have any idea what that means?
I don't know the actual definition.
All right, and what's the next response or the next, what Sucker J said after that?
He continues on to say, LOL, I enjoy a little mutual aggression.
All right, what occurred after that?
Your Honor, I think that was a misstatement of who was the sender and the receiver. I'm sorry to be insistent.
Just identify the conversations, go through the conversations, responding, and
Give who is the sender, say that, and say this person responded to this. Okay, one line at a time, okay?
Okay. Where do you want me to start?
start back over at the top.
Okay. Jay says, I feel like you be into BDSM during sex.
All right, then what did he say?
Jay is still talking.
All right.
No, that's not correct. Jay was identified outside the presence of the jury. That emoji,
Talking about the emoji.
no, but that's part of the same.
What was said next between conversation between you and Sucker J Lee next?
It says, LOL, I enjoy a little mural aggression.
That's what you said to him, right?
No, that's what he says to me.
Okay, then what happened?
It looks like I sent him some emojis.
Okay,
And then Jay says, mutual question mark. Oh, wait a minute.
all right, and then what happened? What did you say to him after that?
Just a second.
approach.
It makes sense now.
I won't, I've had a conversation, we've had a very good argument about this, but this is
Give me just a second, please.
That's why it's changed it.
Just a second, because this format, y'all, is a lot. Let me look over it. Okay.
Take your time.
Okay, so it looks like I said, LOL, I enjoy a little mutual aggression. That's what it looks like.
Okay, that's fine.
And Jay is correcting me saying mutual, and I said correct.
Then what? What'd Jay say then?
Jay says, ooh, you like to choke and be choked? I said heavy on it. I then reply, do you have any kinks, LOL?
Then what was said?
Jay says, I don't think so. I like to be aggressive, and I also like to be put in my place.
Thank you. Now, I want to move you down to the conversations on the page that you've identified previously. On the left side of the page, Jay Lee. I'll identify the top. Just go at the top. Okay.
I would ask to allow to identify.
Before you go, okay? That's all.
Here it comes.
June 13th, 14th. Mr. Lee, if you would identify the conversations if you can. You've identified previously sender on the left side, recipient on the right side. Do you see that particular conversation that's highlighted in that conversation? No, just a highlight.
Yeah. He's real. I'm getting long from up here. If anybody got 2 minutes.
We didn't talk about this.
All right, they back up there because they can't get it right. Still.
I wanted to ask you, you testified earlier that the apps that you went to or that you didn't go to, or basically that you talked to the cops about, Jack and the other two, are those apps that you had on your phone? You had Jack on your phone?
I had 2 of the 3 that you.
2 of the 3. Actually. And did you ever share anything that you received from Jack or Grindr, I think, with Jay Lee or anything like that, or any information or anybody that you had met on Grindr and talked to Jay Lee about that individual or set anybody up or anything like that?
Not to my knowledge, no.
And Mr. Spears, I want to make sure, in addition to what we pointed out, as far as conversations that you and Jay Lee had on, I believe that would have been, you identified Monday or May 28th, 2022. You would agree with me, would you not, that I went through all these conversations or each one of these, it's going to be certain times that y'all had conversations about sexual activity, sexual preference, things like that, right? Some, not a whole lot, but some. Similar to what I pointed out just a few moments ago.
You said sexual activities and sexual preferences.
Preferences, things of that nature, conversations between you and Jay Lee, consistent with what we just talked about a few minutes ago.
I'm confused.
You don't believe so?
I said I'm confused.
All right. You first testified that y'all didn't talk about sexual preferences, you talked about partners, you talked about certain things, about meetings,
I think we
how
didn't.
you hooked up, things of that nature. You talked about whether or not you'd given that information to police officers on the 12th of June, 2022. And we pointed out that y'all had conversations about choking and things of that nature in that conversation. Would you agree with me in all likelihood, or there is conversations consistent with what we discovered here on cross-examination?
That's not sexual preference, though.
Sexual preference, sexual conduct, sexual conversations about certain things.
Okay.
A lot of that, right?
You said a lot of it?
Yeah. Within your chat history, during the 4 months that y'all knew each other. Talked about a lot of sex, I guess.
We talked about a lot of sex? I don't think we did. I don't think we talked about a lot of sex.
4 months.
you, Rick.
Is that yours? Okay. All right. Now, prior to coming in here, you reviewed an interview between yourself and law enforcement, correct?
Correct.
Now, the conversation that you had with, or the cross-examination you had with Mr. Horan about statements that were made to University Police Department.
Okay.
That was different times. Huh?
I had 2 different interviews.
So at first you were responding about that interview that you had just watched, correct, and reviewed, to refresh your recollection.
Correct.
All right, because how long ago? That was back in the summer of 2022.
Correct.
All right. Now, did those law enforcement officers, whether they were University Police Department or Oxford Police Department, come find you to get information from you?
Both of them did. Both sets of
Why did
officers.
they do that? How did they know
I'm
you
the one
had
who-
information relevant to this case?
I'm the one who called them.
You called them. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, the information that you provided to them, they ended up, UPD as well as OPD, got information from you, correct?
Mhm.
And it was the Oxford Police Department that actually recorded that interview with you.
Correct.
All right, so had you seen that interview prior to coming here today?
No.
Now, the information that you provided them about the conversation that you had with Jay Lee on Snapchat
Mhm.
That morning of July 8th at 5:58, and then prior to that at 5:21, did you have to look at anything to refresh your recollection as to what was said?
No.
Now then, the conversations that you had with Jay Lee while y'all were friends, I believe.
Yeah, first of all, you know, we had a conversation here with Jamie on cross-examination. That's what we argued about the whole time. I'm talking about Snapchat. Okay, I thought you were talking about
Yeah,
conversation.
that's a good day anyway.
I was talking about Jason, that's correct.
Yes, sir. I believe your testimony was that you were friends, y'all met in May, and then from May to July the 8th, y'all became closer and closer.
We were building a
You-
friendship.
You explained that to the jury.
Yes.
During that time, did you have many conversations with him?
Yeah.
Through Snapchat,
Yeah.
iMessage? or,
Yes, sir.
correct? Did y'all meet on any of those apps?
Not at all.
Okay. And I think you were saying that you explained to law enforcement about the apps that were used by LGBTQ interested people in order to make connections.
Law enforcement came to me, both UPD and OPD, and they knew absolutely nothing about how we communicate at all. So I had to explain to them.
Yeah, can you tell the jury whether, now looking back, thinking about conversations that you had with Jay Lee prior to July the 8th, whether y'all had any robust or significant conversations about how he uses social media to make connections?
About how he uses social media to make connections.
Yes. On his own?
We never had a conversation about him reaching out to people. No.
All right, and then, how long has it been since you've seen messages that you had with your friend Jay Lee in between May and July of 2022 and now?
How long has it been since I saw? I don't go back and look at the messages. It's been 2 years.
It's been 2
It was-
years.
Since y'all just showed me that text thread.
One conversation about sexual activity. Do you understand what I'm talking about?
Say it one more time.
When Mr. Horan asked you about a specific, I don't know, maybe 4 lines of conversation back in June of 2022.
Mhm.
Did you remember that? Did you remember that conversation?
Did I remember the conversation after reading it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
But prior to being confronted with it, you didn't recall that.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. I wanted to be more specific about when I asked you earlier about, do you recall whether you had significant conversations with Jay Lee about his using social media to make connections? Do you remember that question?
Did you just ask me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
On cross-examination, you were asked about whether you had conversations with Jay Lee. Actually, you were asked about two apps, Jack and Grindr,
Correct.
and DLK, which you didn't know anything about.
Mm.
All right. Can you recall right now, tell the jury whether you and Jay Lee had any conversations about his use of those two sites, Jack and Grindr, in order to make hookups for himself?
We never had a conversation saying, hey, I use this app, or he never had a conversation with me saying, hey, I use these apps to hook up with people.
Okay. So the primary interest in that was you explaining to law enforcement what they were.
Yes.
That's all I have.
All right, yes, it would be fine, excuse.
Yes, sir.
No, Your Honor.
Just stay like that just a minute. Look for the jury. 4:47. I'm not gonna get any chances to everybody make it 4 or 5 o'clock. I'm gonna let y'all be excused, and I think that's all right, but you'll eat somewhere here, not. It's good, I think, anyway. I had never been there, y'all give me the 4 back tomorrow, I don't know. I'm gonna discuss it once again. Don't discuss the case, go around and discuss the case with you. Don't press it, form, and continue. Don't investigate the case in the way. You're gonna try to discuss the case with you. Don't stop. Can't take the risk. You'll have a good evening. We will start back at 9 in the morning. Everything goes. We don't speak on this today, but today we get the update. Okay, thank y'all for your purchase. We'll see y'all tomorrow.
Our boy's holiday is for real. It's like, Okay, let me see what y'all got in the chat. Hey, Cicely, we are watching the trial of Sheldon Harrington. He's alleged to have killed Jay Lee, who was a member of the LGBT community down in Oxford, Mississippi. So right now, this is one of his friends who's testifying. He's also one of the people who are alleged to have like the last pieces of contact with him. So Jay Lee was said to be a flamboyant, outgoing person, very comfortable in his skin, and very active with his family and as well as his educational life. So he had an internship, he had commitments, he also had a job.
Mr. Spears, did you travel to Atlanta?
I did.
Was it subpoenaed by both parties or one?
Was not speaking about it.
What do you want to tell Mr. Spears?
Give some contact information. I'll get him back. I get him subpoenaed. I don't want him to have to go home right now. He wants to go home.
Mr. Spears, let me ask you this. If the defense may call you, it could be sometime next week before that, may or may not. I don't want you to have to stick around here, but will you give me your assurance if we get some contact information and we call to give you some notice that you'll come back?
I would need pretty good bit of notice. I'd have to let my supervisors know, and I'd have to plan ahead to travel 5 hours back and forth.
Give him his contact information, what he's using right now. My staff not only will contact him plenty of time, pay him travel pursuant to the rules.
I don't know if is the court equipped to do like remote type testimony or closed circuit system?
We can do that if we had. We'll do that. If we have to hear from you again, we'll set up a Zoom call or something with you, okay? That'd be better than coming back from Fort Atlanta.
That'd be great.
But I want you to make sure all these people have good contact information on so that if need be.
Okay, so the court is ending.
B will get here.
But I don't want to impose upon Mr. Spears. I know he has to travel a long way.
But give them your contact information. We'll be back in touch with you. If you need you, we'll set you up on a Zoom call. Okay. All right. Anything else before we break for the evening? All right. I'll be here before 9 in the morning. We'll have the jury here ready to kick off. I'll be here by no later than 8:45. I would encourage the attorneys to be here as well so that we can.
That's the defendant,
take up
y'all.
any matter before the jury gets here, okay? All right, that being said, court being recessed until 9 in the morning. Thank you for being here.
All right, so they started at 9 in the morning. Okay, so yeah, the case is interesting because there is no body, y'all. The body of Jay Lee has never been found. He was actually declared deceased by his mother, who said that she talked to him all day, every day. And so by it being her birthday and she only getting a text message from her son, she went down to whatever part of Mississippi she was in. She went to the part of town where he was at. They called some of his friends. Unica is in here telling us that they had a search party for Jay Lee and everything. The friend who was just on the stand, he basically just testified. No, he's not defending himself. He's got legal representation. The guy who was just on the stand testifying, he was his friend. He's the one who said he basically talked to him the day that he disappeared, which would have been July 8th. He was on FaceTime with him, and he said that he was going to go meet up with this dude that he had. Well, we know that he said that they had a fight earlier that day, but he was going back over there to get fellatio. And so boom, he was allegedly the last person to talk to him. Now, the defendant is said to have, again, the man is said to have been seen leaving Jay Lee's car, running away from the car on camera. He's been seen getting a shovel and a wheelbarrow from his parents' house. He had a $250,000 bond. He's bonded out. He's turned over his passport, as well as he turned over his passport, and he's wearing an ankle monitor. Some other circumstantial evidence that we heard about was that he searched how long does it take to strangle somebody before Jay Lee arrived, at his house, and that he also searched for international flights. So this is the case down in Mississippi that we're going to be watching. We actually are a day behind. So they are doing day 2 right now. And so I'm going to switch over to day 2. I got about 30, 40 minutes. So I'm gonna switch over to day 2 so we can get caught up. And then y'all know tomorrow we're gonna be trial watching too. So anybody that's new here, this is what we're doing. Like, if you following me from covering the YSL trial, we are now covering this trial. So like, subscribe, come back, but we're gonna be over here trial watching. It's what we're gonna be doing on this channel. All right, so let me get out of here, and we're gonna go to today. We're gonna see what they did today for at least the next 30 minutes or so, because I gotta go pick up my kids. So we're gonna start from the beginning. This is today.
You guys me, okay? I got your DWS insurance. All right, where do you work at? Winchester. All right. Do you have a license, or is it just at home? Okay. Where you born in Mississippi? Okay. What's your social?
Okay, it seems off. 1 second, y'all.
871269. And what's your first name? What's your name, birth?
Something seems off about. Okay.
Did you notice any vehicle?
I'm not tripping. All right. Sorry, guys. I just want to make sure it was right. I will always be on YouTube. So if you are not subscribed to my channel, subscribe. I'm always going to be on YouTube.
Okay, Mr. Carter. Just slow down there. Okay? Make sure you keep your eyes on me, okay? All right.
Okay.
Was that the extent of your interaction with the officer that morning?
Yes, sir.
Anything else on that video show you or Tim Harrington?
No, sir.
The person that was in the passenger seat with you that day, do you recognize him in the courtroom today?
Yes, sir.
All right, if you don't mind, if you can, for the record, just identify where he's located in the courtroom and what he's wearing.
Tim is to the right of me in a navy blue suit.
All right, so that's so reflect anyway. ID.
All right, after this interaction with the officer, where did you go?
I proceeded to drop him off at home. Well, to be honest, I don't know if this is home or what. I didn't know where he stayed, but he asked me to drop him off at Lafayette Place.
Okay. Did you drive to Lafayette Place?
Yes, sir.
Drop him off?
Yes, sir.
Is there anything that you observed, any vehicles,
No.
unique or otherwise, in the parking area near Tim Harrington's apartment?
Yes, sir. Like I said, I don't know where his apartment is, but I dropped him off at Lafayette Place. It's like a little shed thing that you bag your vehicles in. It was to the right of me, and when he got out of the car, he walked up and to the left.
Did you notice any vehicles there?
It was a couple vehicles there.
Do you remember any of them?
No, sir.
Okay. Do you remember whether? Do you remember what type of car or other type of vehicle? If you do,
No, sir.
court's indulgence. You've been driving that same route every morning when you got off work?
Yes, sir.
Had you ever seen him jogging there before?
No, sir.
All right. Are you familiar with the people that jog on a regular basis that route as you're leaving work?
Yes, sir. 7 people jog there.
Was Tim Harrington one of those people?
No, sir.
Was that the first time you'd ever seen him jogging down the road on your way home from work?
Yes, sir.
Cross-examination. Look, his witness be finally excused. You're free to go, Mr. Carter. Thank you for being here, and you're welcome to stay, but you're free to go. Have a good day. Wait, we're gonna take just a real short break to get our, you can go, get our next witness lined up. Remember the court's instruction. Don't discuss case, form any opinions. Court's gonna take us a real short break.
Wait a minute. It sounds like he just testified that he saw Jay Lee running down the street. Did I miss that? We might have to try and bag it up again, y'all. I know that the feed kind of started late, but I want to say, unless Taylor Gang, y'all can correct me. Did he just say he saw Jay Lee running down the street and then he dropped him off at an apartment? Let me know, Taylor Gang. All right. Okay, wait a minute. I didn't skip some stuff.
Discovery, is her information contained in discovery?
In the 22,000 page documents, it is.
Sorry, y'all. I'm trying to get it right. It's hard to tell when they start talking.
Is her information contained in discovery?
In the 22,000 page documents, it is.
I'm going to ask you this, what's going to be the nature of her proposed testimony?
Yes, Your Honor. Chief Mahan was at the time over investigations for UPD. The investigation began with UPD, like the University Police Department. Instead of calling every single University Police Department officer, since she was the chief, we were calling her to go over the UPD investigation. Further, has she
wrote a report?
Yes, Your Honor. She not only wrote reports, she also signed off on reports, and she was the supervisor over all the officers who, on UPD side, who were investigating the disappearance of Jay Lee. They have those reports. She also took pictures. She also took the pictures of the search of Jay Lee's apartment, Campus Walk apartment. They have those. They actually have all of this. When opposing counsel refers to 20,000 pages of discovery, he's referring to digital dumps, like from computers and phones. The UPD police reports amount to 160 pages. Everything she did is contained within those 160 pages, and they have that.
All I'm saying, Your Honor, is that I've had to inspect those documents due to the fact of the untimeliness of the discovery as to these witnesses to make sure that whether or not there's information contained in the entire body of what I've been provided.
Do you have a copy of this witness's report handy? Let me look at it real quick.
The other representations are correct. They were provided in discovery I don't know which dump it was, Sean.
They do a whole lot of, they do a whole lot of approaching.
Take the witness chair there, please. May proceed when you're ready.
Chief Mahan, please introduce yourself to the jury.
Captain Jane
Oh,
Mahan.
I apologize, Captain Jane Mahan. So tell us a little bit about what you do.
I'm a police officer at the University of Mississippi Police Department. I've been employed there for approximately 21 years. At the time of this report, I was the captain over administrative operations, which oversaw investigations in the crime prevention unit.
And were you, when you said at the time, were you involved in the investigation into the disappearance of Jay Lee?
Yes, during the initial phases, I became involved. I was not involved from like the very first phone call to the
Okay.
department.
But do you, were you the person supervising over the UPD side or University Police Department side of the investigation?
Yes.
Okay. And you said there was multiple in the beginning. So were there other agencies involved?
It became a point in the investigation, like when Jay Lee's car was found, that we reached out to Oxford Police Department because obviously his car was found in another jurisdiction.
Make sure you speak up so that the jury can hear you. And
I'm sorry.
I just want to make sure. Okay. So his car was found in another jurisdiction. Where was the car found ultimately?
I'm not sure specifically if you're talking about that it was parked at Molly Bar Trails at one point, but how we were notified of where the car was located is through the towing company.
Okay. So when you said that OPD, Oxford Police, became involved, it was because it was parked in Oxford Police Department's jurisdiction.
Yes.
And was that at Molly Bar Trails Apartments?
Yes, Molly Bar Trails is in Oxford's jurisdiction.
Okay. So starting from there, we're going to go, since that's what you said, that's when Oxford Police became involved. I wanted to kind of start at the beginning. Since you were supervising, you signed off on many of the officers' reports. I want you to kind of tell us about the investigation. How did UPD learn of Jay Lee's disappearance?
Sorry, it's going to take me a minute to get through these. So on July 8th, our dispatch office received a call about a missing student, a call from the mother of Jay Lee. So when they took that initial call, our dispatcher tried to call Jay Lee's phone several times. Eventually, an officer was dispatched to his residence, which was located on campus at Campus Walk Apartments. Officers responded to the apartment and made no contact there.
So you said y'all got the call. It was like, it was a welfare check?
Yes, she had not heard from her son.
Does Oxford, or apologize, does the University Police have a procedure for welfare checks on students?
Yes, actually, we have a missing student notification policy to because we answered to the Clery Act. But our procedures generally involve people call the person. We may call, we may email, we go, we try to locate them, talk to friends, people who they are known to associate with, and run down every avenue that we can. And we also, if we believe they have traveled into other jurisdictions, we notify those jurisdictions to see like if like there were cameras that captured a tag through that jurisdiction or whatever route we believe they traveled.
So let's sort of walk through some of the stuff that you did in this case. That welfare concern, did it come in on July 8th?
It did, yes.
And about what time, you said they were calling, what time did they go check his apartment to see if he was there?
The report states around 8:30, 8:28 actually PM. The officer went to the area, Campus Walk, to the actual apartment to check to see if they could make contact with Jay Lee.
Okay, and did you all continue to try to contact him pursuant to your procedure throughout that night of July 8th?
Yes, the officers continued to try to check, and then on the morning of July 9th, around 6 a.m., Jay Lee's mother called back to UPD requesting another welfare check because she also had not heard from her son throughout that night.
So he still had not been located around July 9th?
No, and at that time, the night shift lieutenant had the dispatcher initiate a phone ping to try to determine the location of his phone.
Okay, and then after initiating that phone ping, did you all do anything in relation to that?
To the ping?
Yes, like did you put out be on the lookout? Did you
Okay, so we requested the ping. They also continue to check areas, such as the archive apartments on West Motel. They continue to check, and at around 1 p.m. on July 9th, I'll be on the lookout. I'm sorry. Okay, I see now. I apologize. Okay. So on July 9th, around 1 p.m., the officers put out to be on the lookout to the local agencies.
What does it be on the lookout?
Basically, it's a notification to the law enforcement officers in that agency. It's like a stop and hold. Like, if they see this individual, their vehicle, or come in contact with this person, to please contact our agency because we're trying to ensure the welfare of this person.
Hey, did you all, you said he was living at Campus Walk Apartments, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you all ever get to see when he left or find out anything about him coming and going, if he was ever even there?
Yes. So later, by reviewing video, sorry. Okay, so Lieutenant Moore reviewed the housing camera videos at Campus Walk, and it showed Lee had not returned to his apartment since he left on July 8th at 6 a.m., around 6 o'clock.
I understand you were kind of overseeing the investigation, directing officers and lieutenants, detectives, different places. Did you also have an opportunity to review the surveillance video?
Yes, later in the investigation, I was able to review the video of him leaving his apartment.
So you did review the surveillance footage? Yes. Okay. And what footage did you review? Like what time frame, what day?
On the 8th specifically, I know he left his.
Now, another approach. They approach every 5 seconds on the trial, baby.
On July 8th specifically, at 4:01 a.m.
Well, first just tell me like the length of, oh, never mind. I apologize, withdrawn. So you did have an opportunity to review it. Yes.
Yes.
And how did you know it was, how did you recognize that it was Jay Lee that you were viewing in the video?
By his appearance, I had seen him before on campus. I knew it was his apartment because we have access to housing records, and that is where.
Make sure you speak up so they can hear
Okay,
you.
by his apartment, his appearance, and that was the car he was driving that was registered to him.
And the cameras that this came from, who controls those cameras?
The housing department on campus
At the University of
at the
Mississippi?
University of Mississippi controls the cameras. UPD officers, investigations officers have access to view those cameras.
Okay. And the time, is the time accurate on the university cameras?
Yes, it's a time.
And you reviewed that footage before coming into court. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
No, I have an objection to that. I assume it's exactly the same.
Yes, it's
All right, that's gonna be S5, is that correct?
well,
All right, go ahead, get her identified.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Captain Mahan, I'm handing you a jump drive. Prior to coming and testify today, did you review the video footage on that jump drive?
Yes.
And did that video footage accurately represent the campus walk apartment surveillance of Jay Lee?
Yes.
It had it been altered in any way since when you first saw it?
No.
Now, at this time, I would move to enter into evidence the campus walk surveillance footage of Jay Lee.
There being no objection, court will admit it, make public. While she's doing that, I will say I'm glad there wasn't no cameras at all, yes, when I was here. I probably should be a judge today. As well.
Captain Mahan, you were just saying reviewed that. What times are of relevance in this footage? Like the actual time of the of when you see Jay Lee?
Okay, so it's gonna be on the 8th at 4:01 a.m. You'll see him exit the apartment, and then in the parking lot leaving. You'll see him return to the parking lot around 4:39 a.m. At 4:40-ish, you'll see him at the apartment door going back in, and you'll see his final exit around 5:58, 6 o'clock that morning.
So I want us to start with the 4 a.m. When he first entered. But before, while he's getting that set up, what was Jay Lee's apartment? Do you know the number?
D302.
And we're going to get to it. We're gonna play it, and I'm gonna ask you what we're looking at.
Maybe because they ain't connecting to the Zoom.
So
So who was that coming out of the apartment?
that is Jaylee, that's the apartment where the pumpkins are, that's where he lives.
And what time was this?
That should be at 4:01 a.m. on the 8th. And it should say over there, I can't see it.
Oh, I'm gonna make the witness step down so that she can. Make sure you sort of project your voice towards the court reporter so that she can hear.
The date and the time is here. This is Jaylee.
Okay, and what was he wearing when he left his apartment at that time?
I can hear her.
Slippers are
Okay.
Okay, so slippers are a bonnet.
Continue to play, please. Thank you. And where does Jay go?
Down the stairs out into the parking lot.
We go to the other camera view. And while he's getting that set up, what are we looking at? What is this video of?
That is the parking lot on the east side of the building. He lives.
That's the camera wall. Oh, very much. And who are we watching? Who is that that just came out?
Jaylee.
And that is that the one who just left the apartment?
Yes.
Continue to play. What's Jay gonna do?
He's gonna get his car.
You can tell me what was Jay's car?
It's a black Ford Fusion with a stripe down to it.
What was his tag?
Jaylee 1.
To Captain Hand, does Jay Lee ever return to his apartment?
He does around 4:39 a.m.
If you could go to the back with you. Okay, tell me what are we gonna see?
You'll see Jaylee pull in part of the baseball.
Is that Jay's car that we're looking at below? And who's that exiting the car?
That is Jaylee.
Where's he headed?
Back to his apartment.
If we could go to the other camera angle and show.
Maybe they got to get this technology together.
That's Jaylee returning to his apartment.
And does Jay Lee ever leave again?
He does at around 5:58 a.m.
Please go to that next time. Thank you.
And this one you'll see is like on his phone.
Pause it. Pause it, please. So what was notable about, first of all, who came out of the apartment?
Jaylee, his apartment.
And what was notable that you said that we were supposed to look for?
He had his phone. And it's notable because he was believed as far as he was talking about, when he left his apartment.
Objection.
She said something about the phone.
No, Your Honor, she was making reference to conversations, hearsay statements.
She can testify as to the investigation and why they did. She was testifying, it wasn't as to.
I think he got to state, Dr. Reyes.
Yeah, no, they got the approach.
Stick it in his car and leave.
Thank you, Catherine.
Okay, I guess we just gotta wait a second so we don't miss.
Okay, so where did JD go? At the time he left, I think it was at 5:58. Sorry, in case it confused you.
Stick it in his car and leave.
Thank you, Catherine. Could you go to that next camera angle? You can pull back. Oh, and is that JD's car?
Yes.
And can you tell what direction the exiting came to?
This video, he will go back toward, Huffington.
You can retake the stand. Captain, and of course, this was an investigation into Jay's disappearance. So did officers from UPD continue to watch for? Yeah. To watch to see if Jay. Thank you. Would officers continue to watch to see if Jay Lee ever returned?
Yes, one thing I specifically did too is I contacted our housing department on campus. So your ID lets you into the apartment complex. I contacted our housing department and asked them to put like an alert on his ID. So if he ever came back to the apartment, an email would be sent to me.
And sort of explain that a little more. How do you get in and out of those apartments?
On that one, card access.
Okay, so you were saying that you asked the university to put like an alert on it?
Yes,
And what would happen if that was used at the apartment, Jay Lee's car?
I would be notified by email of it.
And per your investigation, the UPD investigation, did Jay Lee ever return to that apartment?
No, not that I've ever been notified of. No,
And was there any footage of him returning to that apartment?
no, not that I'm aware of. No.
So
We got we got ESPN playing, and not that I'm complaining, but it might be distracting somebody. If I get a good game going after a while, I may zone out on y'all.
So I want you to tell me about some of the areas throughout the investigation that UPD searched for Jay. Where did you all search?
No, we searched, checked the archives, Ole Miss Motel.
What is archives?
It's an apartment complex.
Okay,
And it's an apartment complex that Jay Lee was anticipating moving to.
okay. And just Captain Mahan, so you know, our jury, they may not be familiar with Oxford, so as much detail you can provide is wonderful. Tell me, did y'all check anywhere else?
Yes, I'm trying to find it. Obviously, we continue to check on campus, parking lots, all areas on campus.
Y'all check any hospitals?
Yes, we checked hospitals, the two main towing companies at the time in Oxford that we were aware of. Checked the jails. Checked Lexington Point, which is an apartment complex. Quality Inn Motel. Heritage Drive, Anderson Road were some of the other areas that were checked.
And was Jay Lee located, or any footage of him or any sign of him located in these areas?
No.
And kind of explain for the jury why do y'all check hospitals?
Because if they're injured, or incapacitated in some manner, anything could happen to somebody. They could not have their cell phone on them, or they could not be healthy enough to make a phone call or return a phone call.
Was there any sign that he had been checked into any of the hospitals?
No, none that.
And why do y'all check jails and detention centers?
Just obviously in case somebody is locked up, they won't have access to their cell phone and they may not be able to had a chance to notify their family members.
And was there any sign that he had booked into any jails or detention centers?
No, not that we were aware of. Nope.
As a part of the investigation, did you all speak to Jay's family?
Yes.
Okay. What information did you learn that pushed the investigation forward? What were you working with when you spoke with Jay's family?
Specifically on the 10th, Lieutenant Carradine and I went and spoke with Jay Lee's parents at a hotel here in Oxford. And the mom, Miss Lee, told us like he had an internship with Child Protective Services. He would never leave his dog Lexi alone. That wasn't his character. He thought the world of his dog. He actually had a sticker on his car about dogs. And on the 8th, it was his mom's birthday.
So that was the day was a significant day.
Yes.
Did you learn of any contacts that he actually contacted his mom?
He had contacted his mom by texting her saying it's your birthday. And when she woke up, she realized she had the text from him. She could not get back in touch with him, and she had not heard from him throughout the day. We also learned that from the mom, that Jose was one of his best friends, that he was not on, that Jay Lee was not on any medications or suffering from any mental illness that we knew of. And she actually let us view on her phone that his phone's location was still not being able to be seen.
And why is it important to gather information like that when someone is missing?
To try to determine their whereabouts and to determine as much as you can in the process to be able to find them.
And so was this all part of just your investigation into how we discover where Jay might be?
Yes.
So I saw the apartment. Jay comes in and out. Were you ever able to determine in the investigation if anybody else lived there?
Yes, we were able to determine there were roommates. I think their name is Marcus and Jamie. And they had moved out in May.
May of when?
2022.
Okay. And so at the time, well, actually kind of describe the layout of the apartment.
Okay, so obviously you saw the door. So when you enter the apartment, to the immediate left, there's a laundry room. Then there's the kitchen, and then it kind of goes around from a common area.
We'll get into more detail later. More so, is there the student housing? How's it set up? Is it like they're all sharing one room and multiple beds, or
it's like 4 rooms and a common area and a kitchen?
And everybody has their own bathrooms?
Yes.
Okay. And so who was the only one staying there at the time?
Jay Lee.
Okay. Now I would take it, I think we've kind of gone over some things you were doing. What time frame are we talking about right now? July 8th to like 10th? Is that accurate?
I'm sorry, I don't know that specifically. So yeah, so on July 10th, we actually conducted a search warrant of his apartment.
Okay. And was the dog there at that time?
The dog.
You mentioned that his dog was there. So
yeah, the dog was there and later released to the parents.
So the dog was given to his parents?
Yes.
Okay. And so you actually conducted a search warrant of Jay's apartment on July 10th?
Yes.
Okay. And were you there for when that search warrant was conducted?
I was actively involved in that search warrant. I took pictures during the search.
Okay. And would you recognize those photos if you were to see them again?
Yes.
Okay.
Notwithstanding my previous objection, I have no objection. He has a positive for allowed.
Positive, I think we are best anyway. Go ahead and let her identify them and then mark them, okay?
Can I have her to witness?
She's not have to identify. I'm okay with her.
Captain Mahan, before you came to testify, we went through these photos, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and they do they accurately represent the photos that you took of Jay Lee's apartment during the search warrant?
Yes.
Okay. And have they been altered in any way?
No.
At this time, I would move to enter into evidence the photos of the July 10th search of Jay Lee's apartment, taken by Captain Mahan.
We look at it, we'll be used to, that be S6 as a composite exhibit. What was later that search? December?
July 10th.
No, I still have my previous.
I'm saying, no, do it.
Okay, so this is like a natural. So it's gonna be my natural stopping point because it is 3:50 Central Time, and now I gotta go pick up my kids from school. So I'll be back tomorrow. I'm honestly just gonna pick up where I left off at. Even more, if you're watching it, this was today, so you could go and watch it and catch all the way up. But we're gonna do trial watch together. So I'll pick back up again on tomorrow. If you're interested in watching with me, just come on back. Otherwise, I'll see you guys later. Have a good day.